here.
Huh.
Hangout is on live. Okay, so I guess we should be live.
Hey.
I'll let you take it over, Sid.
Okay, there's a big shout out there to everybody that's there. By the way, Steve, watched your video earlier today. Liked it. Thought it was good. So okay. So we're going over this week. We're going over the stuff that I wrote for collision detection and a few other things. I want to start out. I'm just going to share my screen here. Yep. Okay, and I'm going to get to it, but there's a few other things that I wanted to go over because I personally find them interesting, and I think that they're things that people that want to be learning are gonna need to know, especially when it comes to things like disassembling source code, and that because you're going to want to eventually get into that because you're going to want to know how to do something. There's not going to be any examples, and you're gonna try and see how it was done by somebody else, and it's eventually going to lead to you trying to disassemble things. And when you do that, these are just things that you're going to have to want to start learning. Anyway, if we go to our project, we have at the beginning, and I'm going to start at the beginning here because like I said, this is something I thought that really needs to be explained to people. Is right here is our kickstart syscall to 2064. And it's something that's automatically included up here. You have a generated basic loader or a generated syscall, and the software is more than happy to plonk it in for you. And that's well and good up until the point where you want to see how somebody else has done something and they're not loading to that. And you don't know how to look for it, or they've formatted their basic loader a little bit differently, or their line is a little bit different. So I want to go over really, really quickly what this means and how it works. Okay, so what we have here is we have this first piece right here, these first 2 bytes, they're a word. Okay, that's an address, which means that on 64, we have our high byte down here and our low byte up here, and it reads them backwards like that. So you're going to get used to it. And there's a reason it does it. But, I'll leave that for another day. But for now, it's essential to know this is 08. 080E is an address. Now, if we look up here, our program's starting at 0801. So what this means is this is the address to the next line in BASIC. Okay, so we're going to come down here. Our program starts. It says, "Oh, basic program." Our next line is there, as at 080E. And every single line of BASIC that anybody writes, if you go and disassemble it, and you can, from a Vice snapshot, that's what you're going to find. So it's a pointer to the next line. This 0A here, well, if you look down where I'm hovering over, that's decimal for 10. So literally line number 10 right there. And it's in hex. Then it gets a bit crazy because we have a value for 0, which is going to be literally this space. Okay, and I believe then we have 9E. 9E is the token value in hex for the sys command. And when you disassemble stuff in BASIC, some of it's going to be in text and some of it is going to be in hex. Basically, it's going to be things like anything that does something is going to be a single hex value, be it sys, be it print, be it a plus sign, a minus sign. If it actually does something, it's going to be hex. Now, this thing here, the rest of this all the way to here, these are Petsky values. They're character values, and it's going to be literally what you have here. It's going to be space. Like if there's a space in your basic loader, that space is going to be represented. If there's a brackets, they're going to be represented. So this is literally writing it out in Petsky, Petsky values. This. Now, if we come down to here, where we got 0, 0. 0, 0 is, sorry, the first 0 means it's the end of the basic line. Okay, so when the line is over, it's going to have 0. And then we have these 2 padded zeros. And they are the word. They're a word as well. They're to be read as 1. Now, if we look up here and we say, okie doke, this is 0801. This byte here is 0801. And our basic program stops. Our next line is at 080E. Okay, so we go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, you know where I'm heading with this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E. That's our next basic line. And because it's 0, 0, 0, 0, it ends the basic program. So when we run that, it goes through, it terminates there. It's going to execute that, where it jumps down to right there, which is, of course, our value for the start of the thing. It's, 2064. Okey-doke.
So that's exactly 16 bytes off of where we started.
Yeah, and that's because this is 16 bytes. But I mean, but somebody could have in their
What happens if you try to change that to be like 0809 or something lower than that?
Yeah, I mean, when I started actually disassembling Spelunky today for a couple hours free, and that's what I do when I've got a couple hours up my sleeves. I do crazy stuff like that. But it's as a sysgen 2, and I wrote it down because that's what prompted me to say I better start explaining these things. It's like, oh God, where is it?
I was just wondering if the assembler would complain if you tried to move that program start address to be on top of where you're writing, into your byte.
Well, this address is the start of BASIC.
Right. No, I'm not talking about changing that one. I'm talking about changing the next one down.
This one, no, as long as you because this syscall correctly works out to this, it's cool. In fact, that's what's going to happen with something. It's going to have 40. Was it? Yeah, 4096 was one I dealt with today.
Yeah. Well, it also works out because you have written 16 bytes off, and you're starting exactly 16 bytes off of where you started there. I was wondering if the assembler would complain if you changed that 810 to like an 809. Would the assembler know that
if it didn't match?
You're writing over part of your program?
Yeah, it'd probably do bad things.
Yeah.
This, and this must all match. This here, that's cool. But I mean, but like I said, you don't have to have any of this. You can just say type it in immediately on the 64 to sys to the address. Anyway, I figured that would be the thing now, because I was, as I said, disassembling Spelunky here in Regenerator, and I got a little bit into it here where I've done all this part here where it's setting up the screen and some parts way on down where it's loading.
Did you put those comments on there? Or did it disassemble?
Yeah,
those comments?
This is me.
Okay.
This is me. I mean, I worked out. I mean, and I got an older version too, which has like the and I wanted that. I didn't want to do it with a snapshot because with a snapshot you're gonna have to disassemble, 64K of crap, and it's just a big task. I like doing it piece by piece. But I looked up all the file names and worked out what they all did and where they loaded to, and then I went in with.
Doesn't that also auto comment? Regenerator?
It doesn't auto comment like this. This is all my stuff. It auto comments like this, these little tidbits here, which is it can work out. And of course, once you start changing stuff, I mean, all these things where it says 0 pointer, that's all me. This is all my stuff that I'm overriding these things because this is what it gives you here, and it gives you things like this because it's not divided up in the data blocks very well, because it's trying to guess. And but anyway, this is the tool that I use for that. And of course, the big challenge here is to try and disassemble something, then import it, then recompile it. And it's just a fun task if you can do it. But you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a heck of a lot. Like this is a file loader that he used that I commented all of it right down to see how the whole thing works. For loading multiple files now, but because I had these things, I could work out the size of the files and what they were, which was really cool when I took it into, and Google Hangouts is going to hide behind my thing I need to load here. So hang on, I'll do it another way, see if I actually have it still loaded. Oh, look at all that stuff I've got running. There it is. Okay, so your friend, if you can see that, your friend Infiltrator. Now, what I found there was some interesting stuff that this is doing. Now, this is running a this is running a Vice snapshot that I took when the game first loaded. So what I found out was that there are many screens going on here. There are actually 3. It's using bank 3, and it's using screen at CC00. So, yeah, it's if we go to this first character set, it's loaded. You can see that it's loaded up. This is the title screen. Okay, so that character set on that screen is when it does that. Then we go to, it has 2 other screens too, and they are at F8, I think it is. Let me have a look at my notes. I did all this down. Yeah, the other screen is at F8, and it's using a different character set. It's using a character set at C800, I think. No, that's F.
Where did we store it?
Set. Say again?
I mean, is it stored like in the same place as our program?
This is the actual Spelunky.
Yeah, I mean like the bank. Do you know what bank it's in?
No, it's using Bank 3, similar to how I do it.
It should be over there then.
Say again?
And no, it should be in that section where you're at.
Yeah, it is. See?
Oh, okay. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, this is using a multicolor character set. I may have to load the other snapshot to show you the other part that I found. So this is its first screen, and it's using a multicolor character set at C000. And
you figured out those addresses from your disassembly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when I was disassembling it, I was seeing where I was going to load it to, and that let me zero in really quickly because I wanted to actually rip the stuff out.
Yeah,
so I was going to use the little ripper function up here.
I struggle with that infiltrator to figure out, which of those drop downs to select. And
I don't particularly like it as a disassembler. I much prefer my old school one, which is Regenerator.
Uh-huh.
Because but Regenerator will give you a whole bunch of. But Regenerator is like, it's one tool. It does one thing, and it does it pretty well. It doesn't try and be all things to all people or do a whole bunch of stuff. It just tries to do this one thing well. So that was the thing. Another thing I found was the sprites at Bank 3. Where is it? Multicolor. Okay, the sprites are actually at here. They're at E000. There are 64 of them. They're multicolor, so you can see them there. Now, where it got really interesting was when because that was about as much as I could find at that particular time, and I knew there was more. So I actually went to a running snapshot, which is Spelunky running right here, and we're going to disassemble that. This is where it got a little interesting because now the game is running. So everything's in memory where it should be, and another reason why disassembling via snapshots is not a great idea. Like if you want the actual code. For this stuff, it's okay. Was when I went to screen here, and I went. This is obviously this is the screen. Excuse me. This cough I can't seem to shake. Okay, and then I went to. Yep, FCCC. So yeah, F000. Yeah, here we go. Was when I found this screen here, and this is the sprite. This is the character set. What I found interesting was this elevator is not a sprite, and I thought it was because when the screen is scrolling up and down, and the character is motionless in the center of the screen, I thought that a sprite would be the ideal and immediate way I thought of doing that, but it isn't. It's a character. Now, what's really interesting is if you're following my hover here, it's where I am at F800. Well, if I go down to here to FC00, that's another screen with the same thing on it. He's double buffering.
How cool.
Anyway, another cool thing was when I went up back up to my original screen at there, and look what I found. This is the third screen I was talking about, which was the title. So this screen actually holds at the same time. So he's doing a raster interrupt using this character set that's used for the graphics. He's doing a multicolor bottom control panel. Now, if I go up and I change that to my other character set. On the top of the screen, he's writing up here, now entering the elevator. And he has his character set ordered in such a way that when this one is displaying down here, right, the characters for the top one is what's showing here. But that's, these other screens are drawn there, so it doesn't matter. But when he has he's entering the elevator, he's set the other characters outside of those things to be black. So when it goes to this screen, whether or not he's got his raster split going or not, is that vanishes away. I thought that was just a really interesting thing. But the fact that he's using 3 screens and 3 character sets also was very, very interesting. From there, I'm going to close that out. From there, I went to, and I believe this is not in the main branch of your stuff, but I can put it there. This is in my own personal one, SIGs. I went through and I went through that. I went through those character sets, and it didn't do a great job of ripping them. Okay, but you can see right here, I've got the multicolor character set, and this is all of the little graphic bits, and you can see where it goes to plain color. Those go away. So he's not utilizing the whole character set. And if you go to the other one, he's got these other bits and pieces here. The other character set here, I think it's Splunk 2. Yeah, this is as you can see, the ones that he's using in the first one are blank here. And then we come down to our alphabet net using different characters down here. And of course, all the bits and bobs I believe he has to make the larger writing. It's just a really crazy way of doing stuff. But again, a game written in 1984. Like I said, I did get the sprites. That's not it. I also got the sprites out of it. No. There we go. And we can see we've got all the sprites out, all 64 of them, or the whole 64 thing. Now, the animation's pretty good on it, but look how small those sprites are. It's almost like he was only wanted to limit it to 2 characters. Yeah, probably for the purposes of background collision.
That makes sense because the space around him.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I'm glad I wrote my character collision thing, because mine's based a lot on Endurians, and he has his sprites take up this area. Again, 2 characters, but his are in the upper part. What it means is that we can have much bigger characters, so they can look a lot better.
So he's like in the lower half, huh?
Yeah. Whereas I've written my stuff. Oh no, you don't want to see that at all. That's a totally different program, totally different project. That's my project for Castle Blackmore.
On yours, I saw you did an offset like to the center of the sprite for collision.
Yes, yeah, that's based on Endurions. But what I also added was it used to be called Fudge Factor, but I changed it to Trim.
Trim.
It was literally Fudge when I was writing the code. There was a hard-coded variable there called Fudge, and I changed it to Trim, which is going to expand that out depending on which way you're walking, to be left or right, which is why I trimmed it so that it was near pixel perfect to hitting the sides. If you notice, that hits nearly pixel perfect on there.
Yeah.
Now that was what I did with Trim. I haven't implemented it in the Y, because in the Y we were pretty close, but I may have to, because there's a couple of little glitchy parts I've mainly got around. But you've really got to work to mess them up, so it'll probably never happen. There we go. But you might sink a little bit into a character.
So is this one in your game then?
No, this is the framework 1.3. I closed the other. There was yet another project going there where I was working with pseudo random number generators earlier today.
I missed that. Okay.
Which is done in C64 Studio, and it's boring as sin. You don't want to look at that. But this is the stuff you guys have. Whereas if you really fiddle it around there, you can sink in, but it's never critical. It's never to a point where it's going to be critical. You really have to work at it, and I'm going to implement a check to fix Trim in the up and down. As you can see, it all collides with the characters. I'm going to show you how all this works and the work that I've put into this here. Yeah, quit. Okie doke. So if we go to the sprite routines, they're pretty much the same as they were before. Where I have, your sprite expos, it's going to check for 0. so it's not negative. This is move left, so it's only going to move left if that's negative. So it's, there's no change, so we're going to decrement it. Yeah, it's not 0 because it's -1. So we're going to decrement the, hang on, let me gather my thoughts here. Yeah, branch lines are okay. Yeah. Okay, it's taking the sprite position from X. Yeah, if the sprite position is not 0, it's going to decrement with no change. This is all the stuff from last time that deals with the X flag. All this stuff here is this is passing back past that 0 mark, 0255 in the middle of the screen, and setting the X flag. If you want me to go into that, I can. I just got to have a couple of moments thought on it. Remember how I did it. But down here is all the addition for this week to this, and it's really everything. It's it makes it work, and that is if we moved, we increment our delta value. So for every pixel we move, we increment our delta value, and if our delta is 7, we reset it back. If it's 7, we're going to reset it back. Basically, if it's less than 7, it goes back to 0.
What does the 7 represent?
Pixels in a character.
Oh, I see.
So 0 to 7. So that's basically telling us our space within the character are roughly around about the center of the sprite.
Okay.
Okay, now we could do that every single frame, or we could calculate it every single frame, and it seems like a lot of overhead. So what I opted to do was to set the sprite. When we set up a sprite, we set the sprite to a character position. So we literally give it character X pos, character Y pos, and it's going to put that sprite, at a delta of 0, 0 to that character. So our delta values are always correct without having to calculate them, because every time we move, it updates. If it moves right, we're going to increment it. If it moves left, we're going to decrement it. If we go up or down, increment and decrement on those two things. So what we have when we run the thing, and this becomes important because this is the next part. It's the sort of the brain twirl thing where once you understand it, it's perfectly obvious, but explaining it is a real pain. So we're going to load it, and you'll see what I mean. Because, for some reason, mine takes ages to load. Here we go. You see we're at XPOS 60, at YPOS 77, their sprite coordinates. We're at character 10, character Y10, and our delta is 0 on both. If we move up a little bit, you can watch our delta decrease to 7, and when it rocks back, basically when it rocks back there to from 7 to 0, it increments our Y position in the character. So all that stuff is calculated. Okay, is everyone following that? Or do I have to go further? Because I will. If you
Are you
need.
okay, Darren?
When we load the game, it loads it at a position like we say character 10x and character 10y. 1 to 0, 0, 9, 10, 1 to 0, 0, 9, 10. It'll load the sprite here, and its delta values will be 0 because it'll be flush. The top and the side of the sprite will be flush with those coordinates.
So where did you figure out the sprite XY to character XY?
Initially?
Yeah, initially.
It's done when we actually put the sprite there, so we only have to do it once.
Yeah.
We load a bit table here. Okay, we come into this with our sprite number in X, and this is pretty much a standard way you'll see me do everything. Because especially when working with sprites, because we've got 7 of them, you give it the sprite number, the routine works it out. What it does is it looks up a bit table. So,
can we see that bit table?
Sure can. And it's really simple. Here's the bit table right here. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. If I give it a sprite X, so if the sprite number is 0, its bit is 1. Sprite 2, its bit is 2. So basically, I give it a sprite number, it feeds me back the bit that I have to change for a couple of registers.
Yeah.
It gives me back that correct bit. I don't have to calculate it.
That's cool.
So what we're doing here, this is all about the extended X flag.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The extended X flag is stored in 1 byte, 1 bit for every single sprite.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get that right. For this one sprite, I've got to change 1 bit. So I look up the bit I have to change. That's what the bit table gives me. I give it the sprite number. It gives me the bit I got to change. Boolean math time. Everyone loves Boolean math. I adore it because it saves me a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in stuff like up here, I'll go through this, add if it's 8, reset it back. I can do all that in Boolean math much faster, but I wrote it out like this to show everybody. I'm going to change it the next iteration to do things like this. Okay, exclusive OR. Do we all know how exclusive OR works?
No. I know.
Okay.
I know that it's useful for setting bits.
Yeah. Okay. The basic Boolean operations are and. You're going to run across as and or an exclusive OR.
Yeah.
You saw me use and to make a mask to read bits out. Basically, if the bit that I have in my number here and in there, if that is 1 and 1, then it'll spit out a 1 if it's and. Now, for OR, if either one of them is 1, it'll spit out a 1. So, and is good for masking values out. Like, I want to replace the bits. I want to replace bit 4. The first thing I do is I and for everything turned on except bit 4. And basically everything else will retain its value, and that bit in bit 4 will be 0. And then I can use OR to OR that bit in there. I'm only going to OR in that. I'm only going to OR in bit 4, and then I'll save it. Exclusive OR is a little bit different. It flips every bit that it's set for. So I've got the number FF here, okay, which is we all know is 1 1 1 1 1 all the way across.
Right.
So I'm taking the extended X position. Sorry. No, I'm taking the value of the bit table. Okay, and I'm flipping it. Okay, so if I'm using sprite 1, for instance, this is going to spit back 1. After this, every bit will be turned on except 1. Right? Then I'm using that as an AND mask on the sprite X position, right? Like we did at the beginning of the thing. Now, do you sort of see where I'm heading with it?
Yeah. So
I use exclusive OR to create the mask.
Yeah.
I use the AND to get all that data out that has to remain intact. Okie doke. And then I'm storing it.
Yeah.
So is that like all the remaining bits that are left over after you've masked it or whatever?
So all that's done there is I've commented it, we stored the result back, and we've just erased this sprite's bit. So it's 0.
Oh, cool.
And we store it back with that sprite erase. That's all that's about. It's about quickly erasing that bit and leaving the important thing is leaving the rest of the data intact. That's where Boolean math's your friend. And honestly, sit there with a little scientific calculator and just play with stuff. I learned it on the Amiga working with the blitter. And in fact, I still think of things in terms of masks like that because of that. To this day, I still think of things as in the Amiga was nothing more than the blitter on the Amiga was just something that could do Boolean math on memory that you could describe into a square at its heart, oversimplified, but that's what it did. Anyway, so all this is about erasing the S flag. X flag is now 0 because we've got to change it to what we want. So we load parameter 1, and parameter 1, of course, was the sprite's X position. Okay, we're going to store that as XPOS because that's what it holds there. We're going to compare it to 30 because 30 is the middle of the square. In characters. In character 30 is the point at which that sprite 0 to 255 clocks over.
Really? Okay.
So
that's what I was trying to figure out there.
Yeah.
Yes. Kind of
Okay.
Have done that.
So basically we're comparing it and we're saying branch carry clear. Everyone, branch carry clear is just less than. Okay, like if we where's this? Let me have a look quick here. I think I actually got this pulled up. Processor status. Yay. Basically, branch carry clear sets the 0 flag. Okay, and the result, it can feed back a 0. If it's not, sorry, no, the carry, no, where am I? No, the carry flag. I'm thinking about branch not equal. Sorry, carry flag 0 if it's carried, if an addition causes a carry, and true if it's not. Now, because comparisons are done by subtraction, if it's less than, then that carry flag will be set. If it's greater than, if it's less than, the carry flag will be clear. If it's greater than, that carry flag will be set. It's yeah. You understand?
For that stuff, I always have to look it up. There's a section in this book that I have that has like a basic equivalent of machine language.
Oh, right. But I mean, yeah, that's basically how it works. Is because all comparisons are done by subtraction.
It's just about doing the math, right?
Yeah. If the subtraction causes a carry, then that number here was greater than it. If it doesn't, then it's then it's less than. I think it's anyway. So yeah, the carry flag is clear, so we can go down and say that it's less than 30, so we don't need to set that extended bit. Yep. So it goes down to this part. Now, if it was, again, we go to our bit table because we've messed with the accumulator and everything else. We load our bit. Okie doke. We OR because we've already we're going to OR the sprite extended to it, and we're going to store it. So we're going to OR that bit in. Remember the bit that we masked out there? We're going to OR it into there and store it away. We're going to store it in our variable. How we're going to store it in the registers.
That's kind of what turns it back on, right?
Yeah, that's literally because we say okay, we passed 30. We've got to set that bit. Lucky for us, when we did it up here and stored it, we masked that bit out, so it was at 0. And if we need to set it, we can set it with an OR.
So that's why you have to save it. I see. Where you saved it earlier. That makes sense. I've seen that in code before. I didn't quite understand it before.
Oh, I mean, this is the thing that, like, if you're going to learn assembly, you got to start thinking in assembly. It only comes by doing it and looking at other people's code and seeing how they did stuff. Now, here is the beast from hell that's going to do that for you, Darren. Which is that all that was just working out if we're across that boundary or not.
Right.
X position.
And this is the fun part. Okay, we set up our Y register so we can transfer XY values to the correct Vic register for this sprite. This is what you were asking earlier about too. So first we transfer the sprite number to the accumulator, and then we multiply it by 2, which is to shift it left, and then we store it in Y. So Y now holds the offset to the correct sprite register. We've got to store this data in. Note, see how the VIC sprite pos registers are ordered to understand why I'm doing this. Because they're ordered, as I said earlier, XY, 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 alternating back and forth as you go down through them. We're going to load our character X position, and we're going to multiply it by 8, which is the
8 pixels per character, right?
Yep. So we're getting our X position, and we're saying, okie doke, we're getting it in pixels. Okie doke. Now we're going to clear our carry flag because we don't want, whenever you're going to do any sort of math with the accumulator, like an add, subtract, and a few other things, it's always good practice to clear the carry flag. It really doesn't screw it up if you don't need to, but it'll screw up if you had to and you didn't. So
basic garbage can be left in there.
Yeah. So until you start really understanding, the carry flag and how it works, I would say anything that involves math, clear your carry flag.
I was having a heck of a time figuring out why my animation was skipping frames.
Yes, it'll do that. Yeah,
it came down to me not clearing the carry flag before I was doing it.
Yeah, because that's all important for stuff later. So what we're doing here is we're going to get now. This is why this is where it gets weird. Okay, we're going to add with carry to the accumulator, which is holding. Okay, the accumulator is holding our X position in pixels. We're going to add with carry 24 minus the sprite delta offset X. And sprite delta offset X is...
That's to get you to the center of it.
That's to get you, I was going to look it up. That's the number that gets you to approximately the center of the sprite. So, and 24 is the visible area. I think I still have this loaded in Firefox. There's something I wanted to show if I remember. Here we go. I think this was the page. I try and leave this stuff loaded when I come here so I can call it up if I need to show peeps. Yeah. Dust layer has a great little graphic of that. It's the difference between sprite 0, which is off screen, to the edge of the screen.
Yeah. So the sprite, that's where the sprite can go behind the border, but you can't draw characters back there.
Yeah. And a hidden gotcha is... Oh, no, sorry. No, I think it's a hidden gotcha. I think, anyway, I believe that if you get it to 0, like you get the sprite value to 0, I believe it's pretty close to the exact width of one sprite.
Oh, the border itself? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Which is why I'm saying, was this hex 24? It's like, no, I don't think it is. I got it right because it works. I'm not messing with it.
Yeah, it's 24 across for a sprite, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And 22.
24. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's 24. Like I said, so 24 is the width of a sprite if you really want to get it, down the higgledy-piggledy. I mean, so 24 minus the delta offset, and we're going to add that value to the accumulator with carry, which will give us
the character of the X. Right?
Yeah, it's going to give us we can store that will give us the correct value to store. This is now remember, this is the sprite value. This will give us the correct value in pixels in sprite coordinates to store, to put us flush with that. And we're going to store that obviously in the register. Now this one here is using X because my table of variables goes straight through 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up. It's easy to use. This one not so much. That's why we did that muckery up here. It's going to load it to the correct register. It's going to do that using Y. We've set up Y and we've set up X. And I think I set up these routines so that it doesn't damage the X register. So if you've got multiple things you've got to do with a sprite, you can just go from one to the other without having to reload that sprite number. I'm pretty careful about that because, I like to be able to whiz around with the same data without having to reload it.
Hey,
yeah, okay.
Sid, there's something I wanted to ask you real quick. I don't know if you noticed. I've got like the chat open on, and where everybody can see it, but it looks like it's real blurry. I don't know if that's supposed to be like that in the YouTube.
What?
It's real blurry.
The chat, I can see it fine.
You can?
Oh, my stuff, I don't know. Oh,
yeah, in the
my
YouTube
screen is blurry?
stream. The YouTube stream.
Oh, right. You might want to be doing it at a high enough res. Are they doing it at a high enough res at their end?
Well, I pulled it up on my second screen and it's real blurry, so I don't know if it's going to stay like that. But what I've actually done to back myself up is I'm recording the screen at the same time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Try to think ahead a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So we got, where was I? Yeah. So we've loaded that in here. This is going to store our stuff there. Yeah. So we come down here and we load 0, and we load 0 into our delta, X and Y, because we are flush with the screen coordinates. Now, yeah, that's how I did that. Like I said, it's a lot to take in, and really it's, sitting through it and working through it line by line will probably help you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got the beast that is the collision. Now, every single case, I've got left, right, up, and down. And so when we check the joystick, we check for can move left, can move right. And what this is going to do is it's going to return a 0 if we can move, and it's going to return a 1. This is all in the accumulator, and a 1 if we're blocked. Now, moving left might not be the best way to do this because it's got an extra step in there will sort of make your head explode, or I use more Boolean math.
Are you just
this bull?
Do you give it a character to check for to collide against, or?
Actually, I'm not giving it a character to check for. What I'm doing, I can, but what I'd rather I'd had to do is spit back a character that blocks. What I'm doing is, and let's see if I commented it down here, or did I comment it elsewhere? I commented it elsewhere because I'm an idiot. Yes, when I loaded the character sets, here, the character set up. When we first spoke when you guys spoke actually in the first setup, the first one of these, you spoke about the Bare Essentials model and how he had his character set up. So I literally copied that from his website and popped it down here. So the characters in the character set are going to be. I mean, and we can change and modify this. So basically, we've got the normal font, the backgrounds, and then starting at 128 has things that you can run into: collapsible platforms, conveyors, semi-solid platforms, solid platforms, and death. They all start at 128, halfway through the character set.
Those are the things you can run into, right? Or when you hit them, something needs to happen.
Yeah. No, and when I elaborate on this system, I'm going to give you something that you can look at, a variable you can look at that'll tell you exactly what you hit.
Okay.
My collisions routine at the moment returns 0, 1 because that's all the information I really need right now.
Uh-huh.
I mean, but we can just as easily expand, quite easily. In fact, I would just have to put a variable in and write to it, and that would be done. You'll be able to check up the character itself, which one it was. But there we are. It can move up.
The screen borders here, but on the program, I know you can't run into that platform you have in there.
Say again?
I said the code we were looking at, it looked like it was just checking the edges of the screen.
Well, that's to begin with. That's our first check.
Okay.
The first, I will bail from a routine the second it doesn't pass the check because I don't like wasting time calculating stuff I don't have to.
Sure.
So the first one here is can move left. This is the entry point, and the first thing it does is a border test. It takes the character X position. If the character is 0, it's gonna do a quick check to see if it's trimmed. In other words, if I'm using that trim variable, where in Jurion's code and the other ones will check for roughly the center of their sprite, I have a trim value that you can set, and it expands it out from there. Because obviously for the killbot, it's a wide sprite. And I didn't want my collisions to have him halfway in the wall.
Yeah, okay.
So what the trim does is it does it out on either side.
Gotcha.
I've only got it on X at the moment, but it trims it out to either side. So that's what we're going to check for here. If it's trimmed, if trim is not equal, it means it's equal to something. It's just not equal to 0.
So it's not trimming them up. It's fattening them up. It's not trimming them down.
Oh, maybe I should have left fudge in there because he'd been eating so much.
Yeah,
it did up here. It literally said fudge equals 3. I did it until I got it right. But anyway, what it is, our character is our character pos. We're not trimming left. Our character pos. This is moving left to the left side of the screen, so everything is going down. So character 0 would become character FF. So basically, if the character 0, where and our delta is 0, then we're going to return blocked because it means that we're flush against the edge character. That's what the delta means. Yeah, if delta is 0, we are flush with the character set on that axis. And that's a very important concept to understand what's going to happen next. I'll get a few seconds. The next thing is our trim. Okay, so we've worked out that we're trimmed. So, of course, the first thing we need to do, trim, blah, blah. So the first thing I have to do is to...
well, hang on. It returns 1 if you move and 0 if
it returns 1 if you block.
1 if you're... So that means you can't move, right? You're blocked.
We can't move. Here it is. We're trying to move left. We're at character 0, and our delta is 0. We're flush up against character X 0. And we're trying to move left, which means it decrements. So we're against the edge of the screen. So it's going to stop you.
Sorry about that.
I mean, and this is fine because, like I said, if you said that you wanted to have the character walk off the screen, that's fine because that's the point at which you would do that, and we can write a routine to just move him off. Yeah, that's not.
I was just trying to figure out which way it went. If it can move through, that's a 1, or if you can't move, then that's no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So we're loading that 1 or 0 in as a flag to return back to our main program.
Right. And I was trying to figure out if the 0 meant yes or no. And I think the 0 means no.
Yeah, the one is return block and the 0 is return.
Oh,
it means we can't move.
The 1 is no and the 0 is yes.
Yeah. And I know that's sort of bass backwards from everything else, but there's a reason. There was a reason I did it for way later down the track, like as in a couple of weeks down the track. I did that because basically, if if I want to feed back the information that you just asked about, like what character it was, then I can feed it back in the accumulator. I can feed back a number as long as it's not 0.
Right. Then you can't.
Then
move.
if it contains
0 to
255, that's fine too. It still means we can't move. It'll just tell you that we ran in the character 255.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
It's basically all about just saving ourselves some time. Okay, trim left. This is where it gets a little weird, because we have a delta value that tells us if we're flush. Okay, like this checks if the actual sprite delta itself is flush, but because our sprite can be wider, in this case it is, we need to trim that delta. So we're going to load the delta X for that sprite. That's what every time you see a comma X means for that sprite. It's getting the that particular variable, and it's going to add the sprite delta trim for it to that. Right, and before you saw in the other one where I'm checking for 8 and I'm setting it back to 0 and all that sort of stuff. All that's for your benefit, okay? Because that's not how I do it. Okay, this is how I actually do it, and it's with a little bit of Boolean math. What we're going to do is we're going to mask for bits 0, 1, and 2. Because if that is 1, 1, 1 in binary, that equals 7. So every bit in those 3 bits, 0 to 7, will be masked back. So just say it clocks over to 8. Okay, we've added this and it goes over to 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or anything, right? If it goes to 8, what happens in binary? Then bit 4 is, 0, 1, 2, bit 3 is set. I always, because when you're counting bits, it starts at 0 when you know. So bit 3 would be set, and that would be 8, and 8 would be represented as 1, 0, 0, 0. So if it's gone to 8 and I AND that out, I get 0. If it's gone to 9, right, it would be 1, 0, 0, 1, which I mask that out. It gives me back 1. I don't have to do any of the adding, any of that comparison. I do it all in this one little mask. Okay, was that pretty clear? Because I was thinking, man, I hope people get this. Anyway, it's like a way that we can save time. You know, because
I don't get it, but I think I understand what it is. It's basically clamping that value in so that it is always going to be between 0 and 7, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way: if you can see you're watching the screen here. Just say that the value I got back was 8. Okay, it would be 1, 0, no, not 9, but yeah, 1, 0, 0, 0. Now what AND does is it's literally AND. If that bit and that bit are set, it gives me 1. If that bit and that bit are set, it gives me 1. Right? But if they're different, it gives me back 0. So it gives me back those. Now, just say I had this number here. Okay. Now, because everything past this point is considered a 0. I mean, the actual number will be written normally would be.
Yeah, you have 4 more zeros.
I don't have to, so I don't.
Okay.
Now, okay, so I've got this number here. So 1 and 0 is 0. 1 and 1 is 1. 1 and 0 is 0. And I'm ignoring that because my mask doesn't cover it. So literally, this number here is 8 and 2 is 10. Okay. So this one here is just giving me back the value past that. So it's giving me back 2.
You're making me want to do a video on this later. Like explaining the bit math.
The important thing to remember about Boolean math is AND is literally AND. That bit set and that bit set will give you 1. That bit and without that bit will give you 0. If that was all, it would be that bit or that bit. That bit or if one or the other is set, it'll give you 1. If they're both 0, it'll give you 0.
Yeah.
Exclusive OR will flip it. In this case, exclusive OR, this 0 would become a 1. This will become a 0. This will become a 1. Anyway. But anyway, it's masking that stuff out, so I don't have to need to do that addition as a subtraction or anything. I can add, subtract, do whatever I want with the number, and then I AND that, and it'll give me back that 1 to 0 value that I need, and it'll be correct. So all we need to know is that it's adding a trim, and it's adjusting it for me to give me that number between 0 and 7. Now, this is where the becoming flush with the characters becomes oh so important. It's crucial to understand that concept. Yeah. So here it is, and this is the only thing. This is all this mucking around with delta, and we use it for this. It'll make you laugh, right? The only thing we're checking it for is because if the position on the if this delta is 0, then we check. If this value is anything but 0, we don't have to do a collision check at all.
Right.
Because we're moving in the character. We're not at the character's edge, so we don't need to see what the next character is yet, because we're not there.
Right.
But if we are there, and we're flush, and our delta is 0 along the X plane, means that we're flush up against the next character. So we have to do some checks. Now, the first check we have to do is we have to actually check the Y delta. Because if our Y delta is not 0, then we're not flush on the Y-axis. And that's going to affect the amount of characters we need to check on the left-hand side. If we're flush X and Y, we need to check the character where our sprite's foot is, one across, one to the left of that. And we need to check one character above that position to basically cover the middle of our sprite. That's all we need to check. But if we're not flush delta, we're traveling up between characters upwards. So we need to do a check on 3 characters to make sure that our entire sprite is covered. Now, did I explain that well enough, or did I confuse people? Because it's a hard concept. But if you worked it out for yourself, you would understand it.
Actually, what I was trying to do is look up a bit mask. I was looking up in Machine Language for Beginners on page 89. It talks about the and, the or, and the EOR. Do you have an example you could show them somewhere? So they might understand. Yeah, so they might understand the math part, because it explains it really good in this book. Like
just did here. There's a sprite delta that uses it. There is the very, very, very beginning of our program. Very beginning.
Using the exclusive OR to build your mask.
We have and to we used and to set up our screen control, where we mask out bit 4 to turn the screen off. Because in Vic control, bit 4 controls the screen, set it 1, and the screen is on, and set it off. Because we're doing all this other stuff, I want the screen off. We use it here as well. We use and to mask out for our Vic bank. Remember, we wanted to have 10. Sorry, so we're not 10. So we wanted to have 1 0 in those bits for our Vic bank. So we masked out all this stuff because we didn't want to affect it. And then we used OR to write those bits back in, the bits we wanted. In our sprite routines, we used in sprite left, because it was the one that used the most jiggery pokery to make it work. We used exclusive OR, where we used the bit table and we got that value of the 1 bit that we wanted. And we used exclusive OR to flip it so that we made a mask, so that we could and in our bits, or in our bits later.
Hey, I'm going to put this in the chat. I just found this online. Anybody wants to see it, they probably won't be able to see it, but if you guys want to click on that. I know you got it, Sig, but I mean.
Yep.
But if you want to click on it, Darren, it's pretty good information for the and or and all that.
Yep, I got a whole bunch of books. Anybody out there that happens to be listening, did anybody get back to Steve? Oh, sorry, to Stefan?
Yeah, I just talked to him.
Oh,
he says the microphone's still not recognized by Hangouts.
Oh, okay.
Which is set, which character is passive? I don't know what he's asking.
Yeah, to everybody out there, I am really, really trying to keep an eye on the chat this time, which I didn't do last time because I'm sort of new to this myself. So
sorry, I mean that's why I'm a coordinator too. So
yeah, but okay, where was I up to there?
You were talking about
train of thought.
The masking part. Yeah,
we do it there with our moving of the sprites.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, anybody that's happened to we're talking about books really quickly. Anybody that wants to read, wants books. The book by Jim Butterfield, I think that may be it.
Yeah, that's the one I got there. Exactly where I got that from.
Good.
Yep.
Books you want to avoid. Melbourne House's Machine Code for the Beginner. Don't even bother reading it. It's horrible. In fact, if you pick up any book and you start reading and they start making an analogy right at the beginning, throw that book away. I'll tell you right now. Get it and burn it. Well, not burn it, but throw it away. You don't want it because as the book progresses, the author is going to cling to that analogy for grim death. And it's going to become thinner and thinner to the point of it being confusing. I believe in Melbourne House's one, he uses like the data here is like it's like a letter, and we're going to put it into an envelope, and the envelope's going to go in your mailbox. And as he gets further on in, he's getting into things like this is like a phone book. So you look up this to send a letter off to the pizza place, and the pizza delivery guy is going to come and give you a pizza. He's going to put it in your hands, which is your X and Y registers, and then you're going to put it in your mouth, which is your accumulator. And it's like, yeah, just throw it, because your head's going to be filled up with garbage.
How many object-oriented inheritance demos have you seen that use animals for objects?
They use what? And now all of them.
Yeah,
all of them. That's why I'm a Java programmer, by the way. I program in Java extensively. I've written a game in Java on Android. Anyone that follows my Facebook page, either on my personal one or Retroromicon, is going to see me out of the blue put up just random game prototypes and things like voxel engines. So yeah, I do a lot with that. But yeah, the same goes for Java. Anyone starts ranting on about mailboxes and pizza and things, throw it away. Because honestly, what you need to know is that it's memory and you can store a value in it. Okie doke. Now you can either read that value from the memory, or you can look at that memory location. And it's a hard concept to get your head around. It's like learning pointers in C, which I did a heck of a lot of C in the 90s. Mm-hmm. You know, pointers and vectors. They're very hard concepts to get your head around. But you are best served by learning the concepts. And once you learn the concepts, they will make sense. In fact,
vectors are pointers, right?
Huh?
Vectors are pointers to memory locations.
Vector is like a
indirect, I think.
Yeah, it's an indirect. Vectors are weird. It's best described as it's indirectly accessing an address to jump to.
Yeah,
you know,
they do those a lot, like in ROMs and stuff like that, way up in the.
I mean, I learned a lot about C while preparing for C. Was doing assembly on the Amiga, where you are using concepts like structs only in assembly. You are using a lot of that indirect thing. So it's like, but honestly, you're best served by just learning the concept.
I think I saw there was a cross assembler that would let you write C and it would output 6502, and people were using it for Nintendo games.
And you know what? I don't know. I'm going to piss too many people off. Honestly, if you're going to write in C, write in the computer that can handle C. If you're going to write in assembly, write in assembly. I've done both. And, here's the thing. If I learn assembly and I write in assembly and you write in C, and we compare the run speeds of our two programs, mine will crap over yours. Because I've taken the time and I've written only the crux of assembly is you write only what you need to write.
Right.
That's why it's fast.
Whereas the compiler, the C compiler is going to,
it's going to handle all cases. And for what C does, and for any high level language like that, it does it well. It does it very well. But if you're on an 8-bit machine where cycles matter, we don't have to do that now. We haven't had to do that since the 486. We haven't really had to write an assembly. But if you want to do it on these machines, learn assembly. And honestly, I know it sounds really smug. I know it sounds that way, and it's not the way I mean it. But I mean, just put in the time. People use analogies are going to confuse you. And it's going to set you back.
That. And we're here to learn assembly, right? We're not here to learn C.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, I'm not even that great an assembly programmer. I mean, I'm learning the same as everybody else. Every time I do something, I learn from it and I start implementing it.
Yeah, you're way ahead of me. I'm learning every time we talk. I'm learning so much.
But I mean, all I do is I sit down and I write an assembly, and that's honestly how you get better. You're going to come across a problem. You won't be able to work it out. You won't be able to do it. Initially, that problem will be adding two numbers together. How do I add these two numbers together and store them? I mean, You're going to sit down, you're going to scratch your head, you're going to search the internet, and then you're going to learn it. And
No, I learned by doing, right? You gotta, you gotta put the hand on the nail or the side of the board and actually try to build something. You can't just
you have to find a problem that you care about enough to solve. You know, and because if you care about it, you're going to stick with it till it works. So we were on sprite character position. We did that. Sorry, I digressed from character collision.
Yeah, you were just getting to the wow.
We're getting to the real confusing part. Then we change the subject. Okay, the check left. Okay, now I covered the concept. If we're flush against X, we're going to check for collision. First thing we're going to check is our Y position, our Y delta position. If we're not on 0, we're not flush, which means our sprite is spanning 3 characters. So we have to check to the left for 3 different characters. It's a weird little concept, but that's what the delta is all about. So this is going to basically, it says, okay, the delta is 0. If the delta is 0, we only need to check 2 characters on the direct left because we're flush with the y-axis on the character map. If we're not flushed, we have to check 3. So if we're equal, we're going to jump down here. But let's say we're not equal. This is the 3rd check. It'll do a check here.
You could have written this for the worst case and just said, I'm always going to check 3 characters, right?
Yeah, but then again, if I don't have to, I don't have to, and it's only literally a branch equal is the only instruction there. There's 2 instructions: load and branch equal, to make that happen. Well, you know, hey, that's a no-brainer. If I check 3 every time, I'm going to be wasting cycles, and later down the line, that'll come back to haunt me. Even with this, as we get into this, even this will be pared back more and more. With stuff we don't need thrown away. Anyway, so this is the 3rd check, and it literally, all the checks, they're basically the same. So I've only got to need to cover one and then loosely cover the others. And it's this code, apart from the direction and the direction it's checking, are pretty much going to be all the same. You know, or very so similar, you'll be able to work them out. We're loading our character Y position, right? So our Y position is from screen memory. Okay, we're going to store that address. Oh, sorry, yeah, there it is. We're getting our character Y position here in Y. It's going to be stored in the Y register. And we're going to use that to look up our screen line offset table, which we covered the other week. And that's literally, you give it the line that you're on, and it spits back the address to that line, like the address and screen memory to it. So by doing this, we're going to the screen line offset. The screen line offset table. Offset by Y means that we're going to go to the exact character that we need in screen memory.
We see that table. How did you calculate that? And it's mapping screen memory to or pixel.
Nope, it's really simple. It's really, really simple.
Okay.
It is literally screen memory plus 40 plus 80 plus 120 plus, and we're taking the high byte of that, and we're taking the low byte of that. And that's just saving me from doing those calculations every single time. It's saving me from doing multiplication.
Yeah. And if you move your screen memory around, then this can all stay the same.
Yeah. And how this relates to what we're doing here is, we're taking the Y position. I know there's so many X's and Y's, and they're all screwed around because of the way that we have to address the memory that it becomes really confusing sometimes. But okay, we're getting the sprite character Y position, right? The X register is holding our the sprite number, so it's looking up this plus this. So it's looking up, to get to the variable. It's looking up variable to say this is sprite 4. It's looking up variable 4 here. I've got that line of bytes. It's looking up the 4th byte to get the correct value. So this is going to be the sprite the sprite Y position. There. We're going to load it into the Y register. And the reason for that is because we want to use this number as an offset. We're going to load into the accumulator the screen line offset with Y. Y is holding the line number. Okey-doke.
Yeah.
So if our screen character position is 12, we want the 12th line down. We store that 12 in Y. Y goes here. It looks up the screen line offset table, it adds this to it. It looks up that entry for 12. It gives us back the low byte. We do the exact same thing for the high byte. We store it in a 0-page pointer. We went over that last week. 0-page pointer is 2 bytes. It's a word. So we store it in 0-page pointer there for the low byte, 0-page pointer plus 1 for the high byte. This 0-page pointer now holds the screen address to the character that we're looking at.
Yep.
Actually, I tell a lie. Not yet, it doesn't. It holds the address to the line we're on.
Okay.
Right? Okay. The screen character X position is then loaded into the X register. Okie doke. We're going to clear it. We're going to clear our carry flag. We're going to add 39 to it. 39 means that it's going to go across 1 and down 1. Actually, it's going to go 39 is it's not going to go. Yeah.
It's going to go to the end of the row, right? Let's see.
Hang on. I mean, it's not that I'm confused. I'm trying to find a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
This
39.
Yeah. 39 is going to be one character to the left of us and one character down. If it was 40, it would be the character directly beneath us because 40 is the length of a line in characters.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's one character down and one character to the left of us.
Uh-huh.
Because it's measuring those 8 by 8, right?
Yeah. This is in straight character blocks. A screen line is 40 characters across.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to take the position that we just got there from character, right, character X, character Y. So this is if we're just going to use character X, that's us. 39 is one block down and one block to the left. It'd be the same as going, -1 plus 40. If you're used to using BASIC to go down that way, if you know what I mean. Now we're going to take that thing there. We're going to store it in Y. And this is why we're using the Y registers, because it's the only register that can do what we're doing right here. And this is we're taking the 0-page pointer, and this is indirect addressing on the Y register. We're going to take 0-page pointer because it's in brackets or in braces. We're going to be getting the value that's at the address held in the 0-page pointer. You were talking about vectors and pointers before. This is where we get into it. Yeah, so we know the screen line, the address to it, that's 0-page pointer. So we're going to that actual address, offset by Y, which is our X. So it's going down, 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 down to the address. It's going across to that address, and then it's pulling the value from that address. And that address is now, and that number is now in the accumulator. And that's going to be a character value between 0 and 255. And that I know that and all this is stuff that when you sit back and you work through it on your own time, it'll dawn on you. You'll have one of those obvious moments, but you're trying to explain it to somebody else, and you'll just mufti it, around in circles. We're going to test blocking. Test blocking is a routine I wrote down here, and the amazing simplicity of test blocking is test blocking compares to see if it's 128, right? If it's less than 128, sorry, if it's greater, we're blocking. If it's less than, we're not.
What did you mean by greater than 128?
So it's basically, we're between 128 and 255. We're blocking. We return a 1, right? If it's not, we're going to return a 0. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now, if I wanted to be real tricksy, I could store somewhere the number that blocked us, and we could know that too, which I probably will do at a later time, because we're probably going to have to. But for now, that's all it does. I can expand that out. The amazing huge calculation there to work out if we're actually blocked. After all this work to find out where we were, it's nearly a comical letdown. So we're not blocked left. Branch not equal is, remember, we return to 0. So if it's not equal and it's 1, it's blocked left, and we say, okay, we're blocked, we're bailing, because we don't have to do all these other checks if we're blocked. You see? We can't move, we can't move, we can't move. We only have to continue if we can. And then this one here does the same check. It goes through the same process. The only thing it's going to do here is it's going to decrement the Y. So it's going to go one character across, one character back from us. We don't have to go through the fancy stuff because it's just one character across. The third check. Sorry, that was the, yeah.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You know how the cat got into the carrot cake?
Yeah.
Well, now she's gotten sick, so I had a little more clean.
Anyway, the second check we were doing, I said it's much the same, only we decrement Y by 1 instead of doing that other fancy stuff. It goes one character to the left. We're doing the same test. One character to the left. Are we blocked? No. Let's continue to the third check. The third check is the easiest to calculate of all because that address plus 40. We're going up one character. And, this is all the character coordinates, as we all know. Sorry, actually, I've got that whole thing messed around. Adding 40 goes down by 1. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's 40 each screen across, right?
I'm gonna have to recheck this code because I think I might have meant to subtract one of those. I'm not sure. No, I did. No, I did right because the 39 was across and down. That's right.
Yeah, because it's always 40 down.
Yeah. That's it.
Starting at 1. Yeah.
So yeah, no, that one's this check is directly above the other character. So we don't have to go through all the complex stuff. We just add 40 and then we do the test. And that's it. Now all these other ones, they're all iterations of the same thing. This one, test right, it does something slightly different with the trim. It checks it on the other side. It's adding instead of subtracting because we have to go right. Then up and down is the same, only it works on a different axis. It's checking the Y to see if we have to check it all. It's checking the X to see if we're flush. But they're essentially all the same things with just slight variations. But the end result is that, we can collide with characters. So that was that I did. Oh, I knew that would take a long time to talk to get out. So I'm real sorry about that.
Sorry, I'm going to be reading that Machine English for Jim Butterfield book.
Yeah, that's a really good book.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you were talking about in there. I see it.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of books, some of which I haven't even read. Like I've got them on PDFs. Whenever I find one, I download it and I look at it. But the Melbourne House, when I read the very first time I wanted to start getting assembly done on the 64, and I'd done assembly on another machine, and when I got to, this guy stretching his analogy to page, 60, I'd had enough. Because I couldn't even. I kept on having to look back, but I wasn't thinking about, should I be using an absolute address or an absolute value or a median value? I was thinking in terms of mailboxes and pizza slices and addresses and stamps and post office boxes and phone books, and I'm like, F off.
Hey, if you have any good books on Boolean math, I'd be interested in looking at those. I'm sure Dan would too.
Boolean math I actually learned by programming the Commodore Amiga Blitter chip. Like I already knew it, but that was what really sold. That's why you always hear me talk about masks, because that's the terminology that used.
I mean, that's the heart of machine language, right? Boolean math.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
I added test block. Yeah, that's what we just look at. I did the collision checks. Yeah, I added the raster, which honestly I'm not going to go into because unless you sort of understand the Boolean side of it and you understand the machine and the registers, I could sit here all night explaining it, and I don't think people get it. Basically, the concept is that I use a routine to set up the raster interrupt, and in there I'm giving it an address to the first interrupt, the first place it's going to stop, and I give it the line on which it's going to stop. Okie doke. So when the raster gets to that line, when it's drawing the screen and it hits that line, it's going to start this routine. It's going to drop everything in the machine. It's going to store everything. It's going to push all the values of the registers onto the stack, and then it's going to come and it's going to execute this, right? And this is the stuff. Now, the first thing it's going to execute is to acknowledge the interrupt. It's going to load the address to the next interrupt and the line at which that next interrupt is going to occur. And then it's going to execute whatever code we put in here. So all you got to know is this code in here, when the screen hits the top of the screen there, when the line hits that, it's going to execute this code. You can put what you want in there. Right? Try and keep it short. Otherwise, bad things will happen. I've got it updating the timers. I've got it reading the joystick and the joystick button. I've got it changing the background color while it's executing that as a little raster time check. When it gets down to where the scoreboard is, it's going to do the same thing again. It's going to hit that. These are all pretty much boilerplate code now for this. If you wanted to add another one, you would just copy it. You put the address to that in the previous one. You put the line you wanted there. This line here is the line that the top one's going to go. It basically hits this one and goes, what's the next raster interrupt? It's at the top of the screen, which is the one we just left. It gives it that address and it gives you the line executed on. It's going to execute that on. Then it executes our code, which just turns the screen a different color, just to say, hey, I'm here. But it could easily be doing what they did in Spelunky, where it changes out the character set and changes the screen entirely, so that you've got two totally different things happening. You've got a multicolor screen at the top. You've got a multicolor screen on one part and a high-res screen on another. It could be running a bitmap in top. You could put a bitmap up here or a bitmap down there and character graphics here. You could have these sprites repeated down here. You could have 8 sprites up here and 8 sprites down there. It's basically splitting the screen along here.
Yeah, I'd like to figure out just how to change the background color so you could have like a blue sky and like a yellow. Yeah.
Well, it's like have a raster bar going down here with the background color. You'd have a raster interrupt like on each bar, changing it. You have one there. You'd have a raster interrupt to handle this part, then that 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 part. A lot of code, but the code was executed, and it would literally jump down the screen, changing
just
it
based on where the raster line is.
Too, not just horizontal.
Now, the hard thing you're probably going to find is when you start doing stuff with the raster is sometimes as your sprites go up and down across it, is your sprites will tear, it could mess up. I had that with Trump Jump.
I've seen that before.
Yeah. And at which point you've got to stabilize the raster by working out how many cycles you've got to go forward or backwards by adding no operations to get that tear going into the screen borders, and that's where it gets to be a pain.
And you have to count the cycles, right, to get it right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's intense, but the results are great. It comes down to who dares wins. If you're willing to do the work and do the research on it, you'll get good results.
Oh yeah.
If you're tenacious,
like those demo programmers did back in the days.
Well, that's why I tell people I'm not that great a programmer. If I was a great programmer, I'd be out there with some of these new demo guys who are doing just this amazing stuff that I don't know where they're getting it from. I don't know what they're doing, but I mean, they're putting out just this totally amazing things that it's all new and all faster and faster and faster. I mean, I'm mediocre. I reckon I could put out a game. I reckon put out a decently running game, but I couldn't do what they're doing.
It's just progression, step by step.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what we're going to be doing now is going to be pushing me,
what's
further.
You're working on, Sig? You said you're working on a game?
Oh, Lordy. I'm working on a project I'm calling Castle Blackmore, and it's basically when I was 15, I wanted Attic Attack. No, I think I was younger. I could have been 14, but Attic Attack came out for the Spectrum by Ultimate Play the Game, and it was the first game that led into their Filmation games like Night Law and that. It was a top-down game, and it was just at the time when we went on the 64 with things like Jumpman and stuff like that coming out, only just starting to get into things like Beachhead. This thing was amazing. I looked at it and I wanted it on the 64 so bad. But now, I think it's probably faster for me to quickly do a scanny here than it will be to load up the picture. But Attic Attack.
Attic Attack.
ATIC by Ultimate Play the Game. And I looked at images. We're going to have 1 million of them. This is what the game looked like on a Spectrum. And I looked at that view down because
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at, when I grew up in the arcades, I grew up playing the original Space War and Lunar Lander and Asteroids.
Wow.
That style of vector graphics. Space Invaders just came in. Then Asteroids came in a little later, but when I went to the arcades, it was to play Space War or Lunar Lander.
That was when they first put it in the arcades, huh?
Yep. And I was living in America at the time too. I was living in Baltimore. My dad was in the Air Force.
When was that?
That was in 1980. Sorry, that was 1977 to 1980. I actually came here just as the first Star Wars movie came out, and I was 10.
Nice.
Yeah, and I went home, like 13. But
And now they got how many out there already? This new one?
yeah, that actually was released the other day. I'm so gone over. I was huge on Star Wars when I was younger.
That's another.
I'm over it.
Game, right? The Star Wars game.
I respect the geeks, but I'm over it. Anyway, this was Attic Attack in 1984 or whatever. I looked at that and I wanted that. I wanted that in the 64, and I got nothing like that. And when Ultimate released the game on the 64, it was rubbish. I mean, it was a good game, but the graphics were rubbish, and this was what I wanted. And then they went from that. They went to Night Law.
Wonder what the chicken legs for.
Which was just, and this was just not that far afterwards, but Night Law on the Spectrum was totally stunning. This basically this was a game changer for video games in the home.
Because of the 3D look?
Yeah, that isometric thing. And again, we didn't get it on the 64 at all. But anyway, Attic Attack was what I wanted. And, I read up on this game and how it's supposedly plays a little bit differently every single time. And you can play one of 3 characters and the game will adjust for that. And you get different secret tunnels throughout this little castle. So I want to jump back to that. And I want to do that game. I want to do it on the 64. It's not going to be Attic Attack, though. It's going to be Castle Blackmore. And because the stuff I'm doing at the moment in Java, which all is, I was working on a little voxel engine, because I'm doing a lot of work with simplex noise and Perlin noise to generate terrains, and a view to do procedurally generated stuff. I want my castle to be procedurally generated. So I'm going to be using a big chunk of memory to build my levels in, but my levels will be able to be built out of a single number.
Oh, before we leave tonight, after we're over this, I need to ask you about that if we don't forget. Remember I was asking about how to get the screen up there and. Yeah.
But that's a little project. I think that pretty much covers.
Are you going to set it up like that? A room has 4 possible doors.
Yeah, and it's going to generate the maze procedurally. What's the only thing that I'm really sore about is because the Binding of Isaac has become such a big game that people will look at it and go, "Oh, it's like Binding of Isaac," and it's like procedural. No, Binding of Isaac is like Attic Attack. Okay, not the other way around. Yeah, we're going to draw from that same, but it's not going to be a Binding of Isaac thing. But I do want to do as much procedurally generated content as possible, so that I want the game, and same as Edmund McMillan, who, although I'm sort of trashing Binding of Isaac there a little bit, Edmund McMillan, I got a huge amount of respect for in the work that he did with Binding of Isaac, and that it literally does play differently every time you play it.
Yeah,
that's a
good.
Yeah, I want that.
Yeah,
for the Commodore 64, and I want it in the Attic Attack style. Now I believe that's just about everything that I had to cover, so I'm going to turn off screen share.
Okay.
Is there an overhead map on Attic Attack like there is on Isaac?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are overhead maps. I'm going to use the look of the rooms and the idea behind the game, and that's pretty much all I'm going to use.
I'm going to look on the C64. Like,
can I get what?
That looked very much like a Spectrum game.
It was a Spectrum game.
Yeah. And on the C64.
I'm gonna do it as a C64 game, but I want that look of those solid vector lines.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna actually have to write a line drawing generation thing that's gonna work in low res.
So you're not gonna do the isometric one. You're gonna do the Attic Attack.
You know what? I would absolutely love to do to do one like the isometric one.
Yeah.
And I even have an idea on how to do it. But there were isometric games like that. Chimera was a good example. In fact, the guy that wrote Chimera has spent the last 2 years making new versions of it with that same look and feel for the 64 on the newer PCs and for iPhone and such. But Chimera did it, but nothing had that same crisp look of like that plotted graphics. I mean, yeah, it was only 2-color, but it was 2-color with style. It was monochrome with style. They developed an aesthetic around that monochrome, and that's why it worked.
Yeah,
yeah. I think people have tried to emulate it. Yeah. Have tried to throw colors and things at it, and that's not how it worked.
And I always liked the color was always a block.
Yeah.
Like if it that with another, like if your sprite walked in there, like the background, you could see the block change,
See, I'm not going to have any of that stuff. It's going to be a 64 game, and it's going to have our hardware in it. But I do want that line drawn room thing look going on. But I need to make that work in low res, so it's going to be really interesting to see if I can get around that.
Awesome. Well, here's what I was talking about. If I can, the screen editor, just taking a screen like this and displaying it in the background. I mean, this is just a test screen, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, how would we do that in code? Because I just basically used the byte statements and just copied them up here somewhere right there and just copied them. I didn't know how else to do it.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to look up, because I managed to get our other projects to load in straight into. This was done in the editor in this thing's editor.
Yeah, this was done in this editor. Yeah.
Okay. Then there should be a way. For me to import that as a binary project, and there should be a way to split the color and
from file.
If I look, I'm going to call up mine here. I'm not going to call up a screen. I'm just going to look up here on my own space here.
Well, here's how far.
Everything I looked up was in help. So
here's how far I got, but it doesn't look right.
You know what I did? I used your text routine, and then I just put in the byte values of the characters that I wanted.
Yeah. Well, mo options is mo good. It's like if you find out multiple ways to do something, that's good, because if what they say, the world that the man with only a hammer, he sees the world as a nail.
Yeah.
Different solutions fit better to different problems. Now, what I'm saying is, there must be a way here that we can get it to save out.
Yeah, because I tried to read it right inside of like a map or whatever, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. I'm used to character pad, so.
Yeah, my character pad's nice, man. Because this is the thing too, is we're also probably.
I was gonna say the only thing is character pad is the screen is smaller. It's harder to see it. But this one is a lot larger.
I think I found a way to zoom out on character pad the other day. I can't remember.
Put it in the background here.
When I was looking at some stuff, okay, I'm just going to look up the help contents here for 1 second. I'm going to see about.
I'm trying to keep my screens on there. Yeah, so see the pixels are much wider on this than they would be on character pad. Let me pull up character pad. See if mine's going to load.
You know why? I don't think because the screen's not set. The screen isn't set to multicolor. Unless you set it to multicolor.
Well, look how small it is. Like when I pull up the map for, I should just right pad there.
Yeah.
I gotta find my character pad. I don't have it down here. Should be in my C drive. Like if you look at it, you can see this right here, but like when you go to the map, it's like the pixels are much smaller, so it's harder to really see.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Although I did a game, when I did my scrolling game, I did it in character pad, but it was really awkward.
Yeah.
You can make scrolling maps. Can you make scrolling maps? And you can make them in this too, right?
I think so. I've not used this one. I did Trump jump my own method. Was it?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I set aside a block of, because I knew I was only going to be scrolling in one direction, so it didn't make sense to go really in depth into like making tiles, like huge 9x9 or 4x4 tiles and all this stuff. What I did was I got a chunk of memory that went to 255, and it was the height of the screen, and it was 255 bytes across. And what I did was I divide that screen up into different addresses. So what happens is as you're scrolling along and it comes time to update it, it's calling it off that chunk, and it's just writing it onto the screen. Like that's this map's copying, but the sections themselves, each little section was divided up. Like each little section was really small. Like for the road, it only actually held like about 8 characters wide. And what it would do is when it got to the end, it said, okay, the next thing on our map is another chunk of road. So let's go back to the beginning and, and read across that. So it was the same concept, just done differently.
I see.
And for this, if we scroll, which I was talking to Darren before, which I'll talk to about after this, I'm going to probably go back on my own advice. But yeah, if you're doing scrolling map, then you'd want to have buffers that you wrote to. That you're gonna pull them onto the screen as you do that rough jump scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a big map, of course, we're gonna have to work a way to to reduce the size of the data, which is fine. There are easy ways to do that. Let's looking something up for 1 second in help, because what I think we can do if the object at the moment is just to see what's on the screen.
So like if we're walking around, we bump into something,
Is let me see. I'm one of these people talking and reading. I find it hard to do both at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I sort of my brain gets torn back and forth, and it's never in the right place. What I'm looking for is the include directive here, because I used it to directives. Because I used the include directive to bypass that whole going to binary thing. So we didn't have to export stuff anymore. So it'll load the project in and it'll use the data from it. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can put at the end of that to make sure that it gives you exactly what you want. So ink bin, file, skip count, okay, character, color, sprites. Come on. Oh, here we go. Oh, you can do it from the screen designer. Inkbin will automatically generate the data for the sprite character screen and insert it into your source, saving the need to include large blocks of data in your source code. Data generation begins at start and ends at end. Whether you're generating character sprites or screens. If you're generating screens, there's a third option parameter which determines what screen data you want to generate. The options are character and color. Oh, and because this guy's British, it's color spelled with a U. Be aware of that. I understand that because I'm Australian and that's how we spell it as well. So I'm assuming that if we wanted to do what you're saying there, we wanted to import that character, we could theoretically here, excuse me, what we could do is use Inkbin to import the data and then Inkbin again to import the color. And if we set labels to our screen start, our character screen start, and a label for our color start, we should. I know this would only be for testing purposes. I would never in a million years recommend this for a live program. Okay, but just for testing purposes, I would say if we went to main, I'm just going to check out how we did this.
Let me put your screen back on. You got your screen shared? Oh no.
My screen? No, I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I was
don't.
trying to pull up that old scrolling game which uses the ink bin for the map, but I'm getting too many errors in it right now.
Yeah. Let me see. Where did I include that stuff? Oh, good. I included it at the end, so we should be able to do this maybe. Oh no.
Oh, I just got it up, but the map's all screwed up. Well, I had to turn it off. The labels are all screwed up. Let me see if I can. The joystick. Just hit the map. So see, it's kind of like that's how I did it.
That looks like you don't have multicolor screen turned on.
Multicolor screen? Oh no, it doesn't. It got screwed up.
All right.
But you can see it scrolling. But you
Is that
see how it's kind of like, no, it's in Simba. But you can see how it's, what I'm doing is I'm basically scanning the screen lines real quickly as I'm moving. And I'm taking this data here and just copying it here over and over again.
Yeah. Well,
so it's like not a very good scroller.
Yeah.
character set's in there, but it didn't load in. It gave me an error when I tried to load it, so I just turned it off.
So the screen that you edited, is that just one screen big, or is that
This.
or is it a huge map?
Oh, it's a huge mapping character pad. Let me see if I can
Okay.
find that.
I would definitely have to look at that to see how to
Yeah,
load
yeah. Let me see if I can find
because
it.
then you're gonna need a modulo to tell you to only load 40 characters, and then how many characters it has to add to skip around to the beginning again. If you follow that.
Yeah, let me just see if I can find it.
Actually, no, I shouldn't have to do that. What I could do is I could load the screen line address and just offset it by 40, so you're only keeping track of one edge of the screen. That'd work too. That'd work really well.
Here, well, this actually, no, this ain't it. All right. Let me just look at the code. Maybe I can figure it that way.
But this is something we're gonna have to talk about too, and like really hammer some stuff down.
Oh yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah. Oh no. We're gonna have to know how to do it. Because we're getting to the stage now where we're going to be leaving the framework behind. Like, the framework's good and it'll get you up and running and do something basic. It's a good starting point for programs in the future. But now we're going to be getting into more specific things.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to do scrolling, we'll put that off last.
No.
No?
If you're going to do scrolling, you want to do it first.
Oh.
Because everything else is going to rely on that. How we set up our map data is going to rely on whether we're scrolling or not. Our sprite to character collision will have to be modified to reflect the scrolling, which is actually going to be pretty easy because it'll just be modification of the delta values based on the scroll on the screen. We'll have to know if we need to double buffer. We're going to have to know if we need to expand our raster interrupt so we can color the the color data. So scrolling is probably one of the most intensive things that would be going in there. So it would have to be done very, very close to the beginning so that it's in there. And that's sort of something we've got to talk about because, as I said to Darren earlier, when I said, yeah, guys, go ahead, but a smart move to avoid scrolling. I'm looking at Spelunker, the game, and I'm looking at it, playing it today because I was about to disassemble it. So I'm playing it, and I'm looking over and saying, there's some cool game stuff in here. There's some really cool ideas. Its implementation is absolutely dreadful. The everything I'm looking at, I'm going, we can do better. Everything. The graphics, we can do better.
Of course.
The sprite, we can do better. The fact that when you fall off one of them tiny platforms and you fall 2 characters down.
Yeah, for 2 seconds and then you die in the sky. Yeah.
That is what
we can do better.
I hate
we can do better. It's like the fact that you've got to use keys to swap between stuff that you may or may not have, we can do better. Every single aspect of it, I'm thinking that. The only aspect of it that I liked was its scrolling aspect.
Yeah.
It did the scrolling well. It scrolled up and down pretty smooth, and it did that side-to-side scroll. For that, it did that pretty well. And I'm thinking, we're gonna be remaking this game, and we're going to be throwing out the only good thing about it. It's like I can't abide. So I mean, I'm willing to go scrolling if you guys are willing to let me. I'm willing to do it. It's going to be, it's going to be some hard crack for me to do, but I'm willing to do it.
Well, I mean, do you think you could take apart the work that I did already and maybe work off of that?
I've already done it. I've already done scrolling with Super Prompt Jump. That was just one directional multi-speed scrolling.
But I mean, this one, I almost had the vertical. Let me pull the screen back up here.
I mean, I'll have a look at it because it's always good to get a new perspective. I've also got the source code for one of the Metal Warrior games. Actually, I got the source code for 2 of them.
Yeah, I actually got that too.
I was looking for
80 pages.
What was funny about that is like I'm sitting there going, okay, I've built a bunch of code off the back of about 3 different tutorials, and and worked and modified on it since then. But the way that he was doing some things is extremely close to the way I'm already doing things. Some things, his is better, but the concepts and what he's doing is like, so close it's not even funny, even in some of the implementations. So scrolling, he's done differently. He's got some very good articles on scrolling. What we'll need is a 4-directional scroller. We don't need an 8. Because we're only ever going to be scrolling in either one direction at a time. We're
Mhm.
either going to be scrolling up or down, or we're going to be scrolling side to side. Because, I mean, I could do 8 directional free scroll, but I don't think it's going to add to the game. You know what I mean? I think you really want that little throwback in there. I think
directions would be good for like a top down, like a gauntlet type.
It would be good for a straight platformer like Sonic the Hedgehog too. Like, I'm not saying do Sonic the Hedgehog, but you know what I mean? For that style of platformer, it would be great for that too. I don't think for this one. I think I think this is one of the only things they got right. So if you want to go, it's a given we're going to be going to do something along the lines of this game, so that's set in stone. I'm willing to do the scrolling. If it's going to make it better. If the idea was to make something cool, that's definitely something cool to put in.
Yeah, we could always check it out and everything.
Yeah, I mean, if it's too hard and it's not working, I could scrap it.
Because it's just a JSR routine, just turn it off or whatever.
Well, it'll be a little bit more than that, but it's going to be easier to roll back to than it is to go ahead to. That's why it's got to be something you've got to decide on early, because it is such a fundamental part of the game. How your screen is handled, it affects that.
It does.
And, that's everything.
You see this right here? I got this from a book. And basically, it just picks up all the areas on screen and it just scrolls them. That's all it's doing. But I like how you kind of put it in a table and probably a little bit faster for that.
For my actual scroll in Super Trump Jump, I used a series of because you have to double buffer to get it going right if you want it smooth.
That's what people tell me.
I did a series of unrolled loops. In other words, rather than loop back, because every time you loop back, it's going to cost you cycles. And for that particular part of the code, it's got to be fast. So rather than having, it's very similar to that, where it's load store, load store, load store. Where it goes down the lines of the screen. But because you're only scrolling a section of the screen, you're not scrolling the whole thing, because you've got your score panel. You're going to probably do something like 20 lines or less. So you do a line, there for every single line.
I'm thinking it's too hard for myself. I should be using these.
But I mean, the copying there is pretty easy to do. I mean, if I did it, I think if I did it like Spelunky has it, it's not Spelunky, I'm calling it Spelunky, but it's not. If I did it like Spelunky has it, where it scrolls across the entire screen, like you go to the edge and it scrolls the next part on.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that with some acceleration and deceleration. It would look slick as snot. So it would smoothly speed up and smoothly slow down. As it did that. I think it's doable.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And your up and down really is affected only when you're going to go on the elevator or when you fall, because that's another thing I'd like to change there is if you fall, I want you to fall until you hit. I want you to fall till you drop, reach terminal velocity, and plummet to your death. Which is, in those sort of games, that's part of the fun. Sometimes it's actually part of the exploration process. You fell off there. Oops, there's no platform down there. Oh, long drop. And although it's frustrating, it is fun to watch your character plummet to his death. I think, anyway.
You should be able to fall a longer distance than what isn't.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it should always. I mean, this is why I've got that trim value and all that stuff on the sprites, is because, and people might get a little miffed at me. Is it, Stefan? I'm only now looking back over at the chat. I'm horrible like that, and I apologize for that, Stefan. Calculating the high and low byte is still confusing for me.
I saw that earlier.
Yes. That's mainly because it flips. It flips the high and low byte to what you would expect. When you're writing stuff down, if I wanted to say address C0CC, I would write it on my paper like C0CC. And when I go to write it as data, and I put like Word as my directive and I type it in, I'll type it C0CC. And when it's stored in memory, it'll be stored as CC C0. And it's crazy. The low byte, sorry, the high byte is always going to be 1 byte up in memory than the low byte.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is when you're reading it, like in readable form, it always looks backwards. But you remember, the high byte is the high part of the number, and the high byte is stored in the higher part of the pointer, like as far as bytes in a row. So that's that's how I got my head around it. I really hope that helps. But again, it's one of those things that you've got to sit down and do it, and you got to do it until it becomes second nature. Computer language, you want to think in it. When I sit down for long sessions, I'm not thinking load the accumulator, store the accumulator. I'm thinking of the problem I want to solve, and another part of my brain entirely is putting that in assembly. And that's just iteration, doing. And like I said, the solutions that I come up with are still not that great. They're certainly not democoder. A lot of that's looking like some of the stuff that I already do. There's a lot of real familiar concepts there, Steve.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just lost in thought. I'm trying to get this stupid thing working.
Yeah. As far as the scrolling goes, there's a lot of similar concepts.
Yeah, I got it from a book.
Yeah. What I was thinking for in Spelunky, you've got those things where you your dynamite and your flares and other things you can collect, and you got to do them with a button, like a keyboard thing to change them. I'm thinking because I've already got that code in there for an extended press and a single press of the joystick, is I can have it so that you jump with a tap to the button, or an extended one will bring you down to like a little inventory boxes on a score screen, and you can use your joystick as long as your button's held down to change between stuff. You won't have to use keyboard. And just try and make stuff like using stuff intuitive. I mean, if you've got dynamite, in Hero they had a really great little system for dynamite where you hit the fire button and you pulled down on the joystick and it set it for you. If you were firing your laser, you just had it central, and it was really cool. But I mean, just like doing things like that. And I want to change the god awful way that you kill a ghost.
Yeah, those ghosts.
It looks like he's waving his pecker at the ghost till the ghost dies.
Yeah, it's like shoots that little dots comes up, and I was like, yeah, I watched it for a while.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the 3D version of that? The indie version or whatever?
No, I didn't. I've seen the NES version.
Really good. Yeah, check that one out too.
Yeah, well, the cool thing about the NES is it uses multicolor sprites, and it's not a real stretch of the imagination to make those sort of color schemes and that work with the 64.
Mm-hmm.
But we can do better on nearly every aspect of that game, and I think we should.
Now, let me get this working. I can't figure out what's wrong with it.
So I know, what do you think? Do you think? Do you want me to try and do that?
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I don't want to step on anyone's toes because there's a bunch of people contributing. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Bo has done scrolling before.
Yeah.
And I think Darren might be interested in it. What do you think, Darren?
I'm down for whatever. I had come up, I had my idea was that we would start off with something simple, like just pick up the brick and then drag it over here and build the wall up until it got to the top.
Well, this is the thing.
You have a guy up here dropping bombs on him or something like that.
Well, I mean, I'm working on my own project off on the side. I mean, there's no reason why everybody else can too. I mean, apart from time, I mean, I only got like 4 hours to work on that. My last week to work on my own project, but that was, me getting other things out of the way too with life. So.
But no, I'm down for whatever, Steve. As far as I'm concerned, this is your group, and whatever you want to do is what we'll do.
Remember what I said, though. It is a team, so we can all share ideas too.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to see your Trump game, man. I want to see that finished. That's gonna be cool.
Trump game.
Oh, the little thing you showed me earlier. It was actually really, really, really cool. And really cool graphics in it. I think you should try and nut out some graphics for this thing we're doing, man, because that's better than anything I came up with.
You're talking about this scroll right here.
And I used to be a friggin' pixel artist on the Amiga scene.
Well,
I mean, seriously.
For this one, I had to put sprites together. So that's the other thing that.
Let me pull up your screen there for a minute.
It's like, oh, the shame. How mighty you fall.
I saw that earlier when I was trying to find my audio stuff. So you just made this?
Yeah, it's cool.
That is really good sprites, man. You're good at sprites.
I was just messing. Actually, I was messing around with the built-in one first, and was not having luck with it. Let's see what I got. Did I get anything?
We're all picking on Trump, huh?
Yeah. Well, I did like this part of it, but not being able to overlay sprites whenever I'm building them was real problematic. So I wound up.
Well, you can. Do you see where it says linked sprites? That little thing there next underneath description. It's really convoluted, but you've got to type in a whole bunch of numbers there, and it'll overlay them.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the help thing, but it's like I said, that editor is not the best. It's not the best tool. I think you're better suited.
I'll try it.
And the same goes for characters. To do your characters in whatever program suits you best. Export it as binary, import it into the sprite editor here, and then save the project. And it'll put it in there for you. And the good thing is what those inbuilt ones are good for is for tweaking. If you got a couple of pixels out here or there, or you got to tweak something across here, they're really good for that. They're really good.
The other thing that kind of became important is sort of what order you set these up in.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I had set my animation routine up where you load the base, the leftmost one, and then you're always applying an offset to get your animation going, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you
have to combine all those things. Yeah. Another cool thing you can do is you can overlay a high-res sprite over a multicolor sprite.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. So you can get like that black outline of those little dots for eyes and those single pixel details in there by using a high-res sprite over top. Yeah, and some people use that along with sprite multiplexing to great effect.
So what happens was, so that's the other thing is I ran out of, I didn't want to run out of sprites just building the main character. What do you do to get more than 8 sprites, and can you do it on the same line?
You're doing it on the raster interrupt, and that's a chore as well. I mean, that's really right out there on the edge of my knowledge is doing a decent. I mean, if you're saying
did the Supernatural guy do multiplexing?
I can't remember. I don't think he did. He had a thing where he had one sprite per monster and eight monsters on the screen possible at once.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the thing too, is it seems like it's a little, but if you look at Spelunker, for example, they only actually have 2 monsters, and you only ever see one of them at any given time.
Right. Yeah, the ghost.
And other games too, you look at them and say, okay, well, how many monsters in that am I actually seeing? Now, if you pick up some of your power-ups and your elevators and your things that you can, all that stuff, if they're all characters, then you actually really only need your sprites for a few things. And Soulless, I think it was, is very, very clever with how he sets his screens out. You'll go onto and so is Bear. Where you'll go into the room and there's there's a monster on this level, there's a monster above you, and you work your way up, you tackle that monster, and you tackle the other monster. But really, what he's doing is he's splitting that screen in such a way that he only has to he can use a whole bunch of sprites up here and then some down here, and he's not doing like a real complex multiplexer where those sprites have to fly around or whatever. Everything is restricted to its own level of the screen, and we can do the same thing. And it's a very simple technique. I think Bear does some really nice stuff with sprites, where he's literally using, I think he's got, I think the actual bear itself was only one sprite because he did it really well, and the rest of the sprites, he's changing colors and overlaying them all over the place. It's looking really nice.
Bear Essentials. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like how about Space Invaders? There's 10 aliens, 8 lines.
Space Invaders, man.
Well, Space Invaders you could do with character set.
Oh, you just did characters. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is the sort of thing where you're thinking ahead and you're dividing the work up. There's a lot more characters. You can even do bullets with characters using some Boolean math to redraw, to rebuild characters on the fly. In fact, when we get to elevators, that's how I'm going to do my elevators. Rather than have a whole bunch of different characters doing the elevator at a different pixel level, I'm going to get those pixel platforms, and every frame that those elevators update, I'm going to rebuild the character for that in real time. So when the frame comes, it's going to lift, it's going to rebuild that character one pixel up.
And just kind of shift the character up, but by redefining it.
Stephens wishes he could do stuff with the music and track. I wish I could too. That is my one big hole in my skill set is I can't do audio, and I can code the audio to work and I can play a SID. I can't compose a SID. I can't compose audio samples. I just can't. It's just, I couldn't do it on the Amiga either.
That's why a lot of people just, use music that's already out there though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get a musician or we get somebody willing to learn to do the audio aspects of it, that'd be fantastic. If we don't,
somebody
if you get also,
if you get a project YouTube channel. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody on the YouTube channel did mention that they know of a musician that does Commodore 64 stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, the thing is like established people. I mean, like I said, back in the day when I was doing a lot of Amiga stuff after the 64, and I became fairly well known in our local scene, as in the Australian scene, for doing pixel art. And I had a lot of people would come and ask me to do pixel art for them, and I had the opportunity to be able to say no. How's your project looking? Is your project coming along? If your project's coming along, fine, I'll jump in, I'll help you out. But if it's not, don't waste my time.
right.
Seriously, and I was like that, and still am to a point. Nowadays I program in Java, and I get a lot of people. You program in Java? Can you mod my Minecraft for me? I've got a great game idea. Can you write my game for me? Oh, how's the project coming along? Do you have these other people in place? Oh, well, no. It's like
nobody can write somebody's stuff. You got to do something.
What I mean? It's like the person with the skill set can write the ticket. If
Right.
you show a project that has promise, and you're far enough along, and it looks like you're determined and organized, and you will finish, you will attract somebody that can do that stuff. And if you get someone that wants to learn along the way because everybody else is learning, that's excellent too.
Has that what caught your attention on this one?
What caught my attention on this one was I was looking for another break back from Java, and whenever I do that, I usually tinker with C64 again. I did that with Trump Jump. I noticed that you guys were going to get an assembly. I just a few months previous, Highlander was started his series, and I'd already gone through that tutorial several times about a year earlier. I did it it was a year earlier. I tinkered with that. I tinkered with C64 stuff when I was taking a break from writing Android. I was in the middle of writing an Android game, and I just needed a break, and I got some stuff on the screen, and I ran it around in circles. Yeah. So when he started out, I just made the same sort of comments, like, "You're gonna love this. It's really cool. It's really great to get into and tinker with." So I left the same comment with you guys, and then I went back to the live stream to see how you were doing. And I was like, I really wanted to get involved with it, but I think I have to do some juggling with stuff, and do I want to put aside a project I want to work on to work on this? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's appreciated very much. I mean, that's the whole idea of this channel, was to bring people together anyway, because I know I'm not that smart. But if you get a bunch of people together, then you got something going on.
Yeah, like I said, I was talking to my wife about it, and I was like, I said I was watching the live stream. I was like, and I really want to jump on and say, like, guys, get this stuff sorted and put in a framework, and and it gets easier. And
yes, for sure.
But I didn't have my headphones set up, and I wasn't set up to do it. And it was like the next day anyway. And I was watching it between other things that I was doing, and my wife just said, "Well, why don't you just do it?" I'm like, "Okay." So I sat down that week and I decided, "Okay, well, I'm going to write. I have to rewrite my framework anyway because it's getting on that time to rewrite it from scratch." So I did that. I said, "Oh, well, I'll tell you what. I'll write it with a view to lend it out to you guys." Yeah, and do it. So that was how I got. That's why I got involved.
I see. Awesome.
I said, I just wanted to, I want to expand my skills as well. And doing a complete game seems like a good way to do that.
Exactly. That's why I really promoted that. Just wanted to draw people's attention.
Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to... There was another point that I wanted to try and nail down too, and I can't remember what it was, so it couldn't have been that important. Most of the framework stuff, as far as a framework goes, and I think Darren proved my point on this for me, or proved my point to me, was that the stuff is in there now for anybody to pick up and throw some stuff on the screen and move it around and collide with it. And that's the basics of what that framework is meant to do. It's meant to be like, I have an idea and I want to start work on it, and we throw it down and this is where we start. So it's done its job now. So from here on out, I'll be keeping like a version that's going to be specific for what we're doing now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Basically, yeah. So the stuff I start on next week, we're probably, by the sound of it's going to be scrolling. That's going to be specific now to this. It's going to be a copy of that framework becomes this project. Because I've got the same project here. I've got a clean build with my own personal stuff, the way I like my Vic Bank set up in CBM Program Studio. I've rewritten another copy of it from the ground up to work on C64 Studio, which is still my preferred program. I'm going to write this in this, but it's still my preferred program. It has a debugger and a couple of other things that I really can't live without.
Sounds good. Why can't I get this thing to run for anything? It's like it kept renaming all my variables or something, and now it's just all screwed up. I'm like, I just gave up on it.
But I'm going to continue to disassemble Spelunker in my copious free time. I use that term sarcastically, because I'm just curious to see how they did a few things. So the loading was interesting. You had to do back then because you didn't have a cross compilers. Well, people in studios did, but your average bedroom user didn't. So where they've loaded different things,
hey,
they've worked on them separately and combined them.
I'm going to share my screen here for a minute. Do you know what this error message means right here? Can you see that? Invalid operand label or variable LDA character set.
Oh.
It keeps highlighting this for some reason, like this is a reserved label or something.
It is.
It is?
Yeah, I know. That's one of the gotchas.
Oh my god.
It is a reserved label. But you can
I gotta rename them.
Yeah, actually, you can highlight it and just rename it from there through the pull down menu, and it'll change.
I can rename it right here. Oh wait, where was it at? Go back to it.
Yeah, pull it back to charset. Yeah. Now, if you go down there, it'll say rename.
It'll be in the list.
Yeah. It should be there. It should say rename. Yeah, rename it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So I need to do something like my character set one or something.
Yeah, or anything like that.
That'll work.
Yeah, and it'll rename it throughout the entire file.
Let's see if that gets it. Yeah, it's still.
Yeah, highlight that one, invalid operator. That's because
I have to rename this one too. Then.
Das funktioniert, aber es ist
yeah, that's where the simple one just messes with you, huh?
Yeah, there's one more to go.
One called high.
So that one is renamed even though it's still in blue?
Oh, it'll highlight in blue, but it is renamed. Yeah, I did the same thing when I did my when I saved my character set in our project.
Okay.
There you go.
So finally, but it's crashing right here. It's not letting me type or anything now. It's not doing anything. fashion.
What's this
But
one?
anyways, this might be a bad version. I'll go do that to the other one. I have two of them here, so I'm just gonna close this one, I guess, and see this one. Just scroll. Oh, this ain't even the right one. I'm trying to wonder. I don't know why I was using that one. This is the one I wanted. This gave me some error messages, or yeah, this is still screwed up. Let's see.
I'm trying to work out how we're going to do the memory issue for the scrolling on, because obviously you want to have a big game. You want a large play area.
I think I overrode it or something.
So I mean, one of the ways that you can get around that is because the way that a lot of people did was to make tiles out of the characters. You make like a 4x4 tile out of the characters, and then you save those tiles. I mean, you can do them bigger, but yeah, you can have a trade-off between where the code to set it up and the code to read it is going to, offset the advantage. But yeah, so you would make up your characters, you'd make tiles out of your characters, you make your map out of tiles.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
One of these work if I can find it. I don't think this is it. No.
Stefan, say something. I think I hear you.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, does it work?
It works. Hey, how you doing?
How's it going? It's so glad to hear you because, I'm trying to train myself to keep reading the comments, and I keep on failing. So it's good to have someone to talk to.
Yeah, I just tried to load the tracker into my C64 emulator here. And the microphone here, it's weird because I can't hear myself on the headphones, so I thought it I'm not hearable the whole time over.
Hey,
No, if you want to try and compose some
there it
music,
is.
that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
Hmm.
I don't even know
Yeah, if you're up for that.
how does that work.
How does the composing work?
Yeah, you do it on the C64 itself because I thought I saw Goat Tracker or something. It was a DOS program.
Yeah.
But with a Go Tracker, also nee, this is also for me this software is a little more more difficult to be because also in this tracker software you use the
keyboard, yeah.
hexadecimal numbers for the sounds and for the but for the notes you can use a normal also for input you can use your keyboard.
Yeah.
Trackers
are difficult to work. I can't find my way around one. Even on the Amiga, I had a lot of troubles with trackers. I was lucky that I had a friend who lives in Arizona now, an Australian friend of mine that was just very, very, very good with them. And honestly, it was like magic the way that he did stuff.
Yeah, all it looks like to me is just a bunch of scrolling numbers whenever I see it.
Yeah, but I've got nothing but respect for people who do it. But here's the bottom line is, and I've been saying this with people doing that want to do sprites and people that want to do characters and all that sort of thing, is find the program that you like, the program that works for you.
Mhm.
And use that, and we'll find a way to make it work on our end. Like, you know, if I'm doing the heavy lifting of the coding, if you find a program that's good for you, that puts out your 64 music and you're happy with it, I'll find a way to convert that data to make it useful for us to use.
Yeah, yeah. On the subject programming projects, when I was 14,
Yeah.
some friend of mine had an idea to program something in some text adventure in the and he came to me, hey, let's do this, but we didn't we didn't came as far as to the intro screen, and all had to do all the programming work, but he couldn't come up with some ideas, and that was it was quick basic, and also very simple, everything in text mode, and just print and input and go to statements.
Yeah.
No,
I was that was how I started programming, was in BASIC, and
I did a text adventure too.
Yep,
BASIC.
I did one on my
fun.
first computer. My first computer only had 4K. It was in 1978.
Oh,
yeah. That's how old I am.
Takes you back.
What'd you have?
I had an Ohio Scientific Superboard 2. You can actually look it up online. It's crazy. My father had to finish building it. It came in kit form.
Wow,
he was
in kit form.
So
yeah,
wow.
he was an electronics engineer, and he built it with my older brother, not me. And my older brother had no interest in computers, and I traded a squash racket for the computer. Squash racket. Americans, they're not familiar with squash. Where are you from, Stefan?
Germany.
Germany,
Also,
yeah.
Former East Germany. What?
Yeah.
Also,
But you'd be familiar with squash. The game, racket, indoor with the long racket.
Squash, not quite. No.
I mean, it's like racquetball with the small racket, inside court, and the little rubber ball. But yeah, he played that. He wanted my squash racket, so I traded him pretty much a $10 squash racket for a kid computer that cost several $100s.
It's a good deal.
I programmed that in BASIC. I tried to write Space Invaders in BASIC, and on a machine that was less than 1 megahertz speed and 4K, that didn't work very well for me. That was when I started learning assembly.
Did you ever write Space Invaders in assembly?
Yeah, I ended up writing Space Invaders for the OSI in assembly.
That's what I'm interested
in. I was like 12, 13.
Oh, when I had my first real computer, that was in 1993 with 10 years old. And when I first saw C64, I was 7. It was at a friend's birthday party. His parents bought a used C64 in East Berlin. That was where you could trade these East German marks to West German units, and then buy some stuff from West Germany Um, mm. And then yeah, I remember we always were allowed to play Pit Stop 2.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
But he had only copied software and nothing original.
Yeah. That sounds like me and my friends. In fact, I think there was a number of years there where the only original C64 software I had was original software that friends brought me to take the copy protection off. Yeah. Well, the thing I had with the C64 was I was coming into my late teens. Well, you know, my mid to late teens. So I bought one with the view that I was going to write stuff on it. And when I got it, I think I got it the same time that Ghostbusters came out on it, the game. And I saw a bunch of stuff that was just coming out, and there was so much good stuff coming out that I ended up just getting stuff and playing it. And I sort of wrote a little bit here and there.
Yeah, that Ghostbusters had speech in it if you hit the space bar.
Yeah. Yeah, one of David Crane's games. But there was so much good stuff that like I didn't get into writing for it as much as I should have. I did some, and then I got the Amiga, and I fell into the same trap with that, where it's just so much good stuff. Like, I mean, I did write a lot of stuff on the Amiga, but I didn't finish a lot of stuff. And again, I ended up writing demos with people. I ended up doing a lot of pixel art for demos for people. There's actually one of my group's really old work out there on some database I put up my Facebook page, which made me laugh.
Facebook now, I have to check that out.
Yeah, I put it down. I said, "Here's a blast from the past," because the funny thing is when I posted the link to it, there's at least 5 people on the list of the members that are like members of my Facebook page. Because I'm on Facebook in order to keep in touch with my friends in Australia, where I was born. So yeah, that's pretty much the only reason I keep Facebook really open is for them to have a good way to contact me. But I spend way too much time there than I should. I usually have it in the background while I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah, I'll be sure and check it. I never get on Facebook, but if I know you guys are going to be on there, I'll get on there.
But on the subject of the C64, I believe they were saying that the German version of the C64, they had their own version of one of the later models, and apparently it was one of the best versions ever put out. Like it had
all the grocery store had their own version of the.
Yeah, but I mean, this one, it was like, you know, it had the original bread box, and it had the good keyboard and everything else, and I was like, yeah, it was supposed to be pretty swank.
But it's like a white bread bin. It's not the tan.
Yeah.
But the C64 I got here, I bought it used in 2009. This is the C64 2, with the in white.
Oh, yeah.
One, the white one. It's made in Germany too.
Yeah,
really?
It was supposed to be the best version, they said, of the C64.
Is it PAL or is Germany PAL or NTSC?
What is your video standard there?
PAL.
PAL. Yeah. Australia is PAL as well.
So it's just the Japanese and the Americans who get the shitty.
And the French. I think the French are still using CCAM.
Yeah, CCAM for French. They're even worse. They're even worse than NTSC, if that's possible.
Well, here's the thing: because we're using emulators and that, I'm going to be writing for the PAL version because it's easier to do stuff scrolling and that with the PAL, and most of the music is going to be timed to PAL. I actually don't have a C64. I have like a real one. I have a real Amiga, and I have a real Sega Genesis. And it's gonna, if I want to buy another retro machine, that's going to be a hard sell on my wife.
You said that last time, and I found that amazing because the last time I bought a C64, it was $25, and it came with 2 big 20s.
Well, you know, well, here's the thing. You know, she supports me with everything I do. You know, so if it's going to make her raise an eyebrow, even if it's just because there's another retro machine lying around, then yeah, I won't go there. I also have one of the early Atari cartridge systems.
A friend of mine had in I don't know when it was before 1980 Quatsch 1990 he had this Atari 2600 Junior with this one cartridge 32 games in one.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one.
And then we always played these games on there, and afterwards he got the a Sega Master System 2.
Yep.
I had a a Master System Power Base was the name here in Germany. I don't know.
Mega Drive.
No, Mega Drive was the later one. Also here in
All right. I think the early one was the Master System. I don't know if there was another one in between there or not. I can't remember. I know that Sega actually put out a computer about the same time as the Commodore 64. And I saw one in one shop once, and I never saw another one again in my entire life. But it was an actual computer. And I remember somebody talking about the Master System on the BBS that I ran.
Yeah,
I was saying about it.
It was Master System, yeah.
And I said, so you can't program it. What's the point in that? And I was totally wrong. I was like, that's not going to work. What good is that? We already used it's like an Atari. You can't program it. What a waste of money. No one's going to buy that. And I was absolutely wrong.
At the time, though, that was the big stigma with after the video game crash. They didn't want to. They didn't want to buy video games anymore. So
I didn't want to buy video. What do you mean? I didn't want to buy them when they came out.
Yeah.
I was a teenager. I wanted to spend my money on going to the movies and that sort of thing. I didn't want to spend it on video games. Oh, I love playing them though.
Yeah, I was fortunate. My dad liked video games, so he would buy a lot of video games.
I was the only one. I was the only one in my family that even liked computers. My mother was very supportive of it, but she didn't understand what I was doing. She'd come and look, and she'd be impressed, and she'd show her friends, but she really no understanding of what I was doing. Although she was extremely supportive and always has been. Even now, like, you know, and I'm 50 years old. My mother still asks me. Actually, I'm 49. I'm about to 50. But yeah, she still asks me what I'm doing on my computer. So,
my grandpa was a blacksmith, and he got in the it must have been the mid 50s. He got some electromechanical calculating machine, so a big thing, and he didn't want to use this. He rather used pencil and paper to calculate his no.
I mean, there's a certain logic in that. I mean, you know, I can transfer that forward to, like, you know, I was putting some macros into this code, but I didn't want to put them in straight away because I wanted somebody to look at it and understand what was being done, and I wanted them to type that in, you know, and do it. And once they understood it, then we use the macro and we do it the easy way. But the same with math, you know. Nothing wrong with working out with pencil and paper, because that way you learn to understand what you're doing. But once you understand it, yeah, you make it easy for yourself after that.
I just recently bought a Commodore calculator.
Well, that was where he started. Was in calculators.
Yeah. I just thought it was cool. It was $10. It has the old vacuum fluorescent display on it, you know.
What, the Nixie tube?
It was not a Nixie tube. It's the little one,
All right.
but like a red 7
My
second.
first digital watch had the red LEDs on it, and you had to push the button to make them turn on.
Oh
and,
yeah,
and,
otherwise
and it
it
was
would
useless.
drain the
It was
battery,
absolutely useless in daylight. You had to go and find a dark place until you make it work. But it looked- that was back when the Dead Sea was only sick.
yeah. What kind of Amiga do you have?
I have an Amiga 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
Is that one that looks more like a PC, or is that one that's flat?
Yeah, it was the box one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the first of the boxy ones with the expansion cards inside. Yeah, I started out in a 500 when they came out.
That's the one I remember is the 500.
Yeah, I started with that, but I mean,
kind of looks like a C60 or a C128.
my buddy helped me hack a hard drive inside the case. So I had an Amiga 500 with a 20 meg hard drive inside the case. So when I turned it on, man, it sounded like Mickey Mouse's car starting up. And everyone was just like amazed that I was just pulling up all these programs I was working on. They're going, yeah, they didn't see me do a single disk change. But then I upgraded too, because that was about as much as we could do on it. So after that, I bought the 2000, because I was well into my mid-20s and I was working, and I left the army.
Yeah, I think they had those at the. I was at a college TV station. They had the video toasters, is what.
Yeah, video toasters. Yeah,
run the TV station.
Yep, I ran across one when I was working at a TV station. So I worked in TV news for about 15 years.
And you used
after I left after I left the army, and I came across one station that was still using one, and they wouldn't let me touch it. Probably out of fear.
Oh, that's no fun.
Well, I told them that I used to hack the Amiga all the time back in my youth. And like, oh, don't let him near it.
Oh, and then they said, oh, for sure, don't touch it, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
My first computer was a VIC-20. And at school, we had Apple IIs. Yep. I really wanted an Apple II, but the Apple II was like 5 times more expensive. The VIC-28 was like $100, whereas the Apple was $1,000 or something.
Yeah, I think I bought my kid sister a VIC-20. How cheap they were.
But that's what I programmed that first text adventure on, was the VIC-20.
Yeah.
And did a bunch of the graphics that I did was in the Petsky. Just using the graphic characters. Yeah. Never touched machine language or understood it, other than, sometimes you would get Compute Magazine, and when it would have those programs that you typed in that were just a long string of numbers, Yeah. What
are you playing there on your screen? What the heck is
Me?
that?
Well, this is. Oh, I'm sorry.
Me?
What is it on your? Yeah.
Oh, that's Saucer Attack.
I can show your screen while I'm trying to figure this out.
I brought it up because I wanted to ask you guys about the background of this one. I don't think it's moving. I didn't know if is this a bitmap, or is this a character set that they're doing?
That could be a character set.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it could be. That flag is probably a sprite.
And it's really only this bit here is the only bit that's moving, right? And they've got.
Let's see. Well, we got our sprites that are going behind the. It's pretty interesting. The sprites are going behind this monument here, and they go in front of the cloud. Something there's a sprite. You know what? It could be either a character map where they've mapped it out, or it could be a bitmap. It could be a color bitmap. You could rip it and find out. Just do a Vice screenshot, a Vice snapshot of it while it's running right now. Yeah, save it. Give it a name. and you could run that through Infiltrator, which is the program I used to rip that stuff out before, and like search around and see if you can find it under bitmap or character graphics.
So how do you were able to pretty quickly go in and figure out where all the stuff was?
Oh, I cheated. I disassembled part of the
Yeah.
program to find that out.
So this
Yeah,
is
'cause
what
you
I'm
got-
doing. It's just
Yeah.
clicking on stuff.
Well, that was okay. There you go, right there. What's that? What do you set on? Bitmap. Yep, that's a single color bitmap. Go to take a note of what you hit. What's the numbers there? It's like 6,000.
6,000. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Now go to your bitmap multicolor character. Hit that number again because you got to reload it because it's like that. It's crazy like that. Here it is.
Yeah, it is.
Bitmap. Multicolor bitmap. There you go.
And sometimes you can find scrolling screens and all that.
Yeah.
I did that with Batman.
See, that wasn't hard, was it? Talking about how fast I did it.
Pretty cool tool.
Three
That's all I
seconds.
gotta say about it.
Yeah,
I wonder what they're doing with this monument and flag and stuff.
the monument flag. Oh, okay, it's there. I know it. Maybe they're plotting it in there. Or maybe, hang on, let's have a look. Yeah, there. Oh, you know what it is? If you have a look in there, you notice how it's wider on the. It looks like it's wider on the screen than it is in their map.
Yeah.
I think they're putting an animated sprite just over the end of it. I think. In fact, if you go to sprites in there, you'll find out. You go to your sprite one, yeah. And the sprite's really easy because there can only be so many places it can look. So just, yeah, start clicking on stuff.
That's
There
what I
you
used
go.
to do.
There's some stuff there. There's the sources.
You think that's it?
Yeah, right. There's just above the sources looks like the flag. Could be. If you hit multicolor and click through, it'll probably give you a better view because I think they're multicolor sprites. Here you go. First one. I think that was the flag back there. No, could be anything. That's the thing. It's such a ambiguous.
Yeah.
And they've loaded this. Look at this. They've got the sprites higgledy-piggledy everywhere through memory there.
Yeah.
Because
There's
they're
the
obviously
crosshair. And there's
yeah,
some of
they're probably throwing them in all around their graphics. You know what I mean? Like all around other places they're using. Yeah, it's not gonna be down there, I don't think. Oh, it might be. You never know. I think that's what they're doing.
around in here. This looks like something, right?
Yeah, that looks like your sources.
Well, I think that's whenever you fire, that's the bullet.
All right. Yeah. And the sources themselves. Yeah, how it's going behind that stuff is pretty cool. Oh, with 20% more freedoms.
Yeah, I like this intro too.
That's pretty cool.
It's got good animation.
So that's a totally different method, though. Having a bitmap for a background as opposed to the character.
Yeah. But the thing is, the bitmaps take up so much space because it works for them because they've only got that to worry about. Yeah, it's a single static screen. I'm sure if they were going to change your venue, they would load in another.
Yeah, it only ever stays here.
I mean, for us, we're going to have to be thinking about how to make that character set really sing.
This
And
program,
like I said,
too,
I said, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
heads are
and I would say make up make your characters, and then make tiles from the characters into 4x4, and then make the screens out of those 4x4, or sorry, not 4x4, but 2x2 character tiles. Because then you're gonna drive your memory further. You know what I mean? Like you'll have a character set, but then and you'll have to actually store an index into how you build the tiles. But from there on in, your actual screen's worth of tiles are going to take up much less space than a screen full of characters that 1-to-1.
I can't figure out how to go from characters to a tile here. How do I?
You know what? That may be something we have to do ourselves, because after that, then I've got to work out how to use that data effectively.
Oh, I'm just trying to figure out how to use this program.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a learning curve on that regard. So I'm sort of glad with what I'm doing, because, I know most of the stuff and most of the programs that I use for what I need to do. So the coding, I'm doing the easy part.
You're doing the hard part. You're doing the part I don't know.
But yeah, no, I'll jump up to Trump. Where's Trump jump? Here we go. I'm still very fond of this, even though it's sort of rubbish, and I've got to redo it. Yay! But you can see how much of the screen I'm actually using, by how much debugging information I've got on the screen, like a ton. Because I'm really only.
Can you make it larger?
Yeah, it's like a third for the debug. You're using the top 2/3, maybe.
Yeah, like I could, but the thing is like I said, I'm doing. If you look at that, I'm doing a variable speed, 2-speed parallax scroll. Yeah. Oh man, it sucks.
Oh,
but no, if you notice, the stadium scrolls at a different speed to the foreground.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, what I needed to do is I needed to cut down on the amount of time it took to do all that stuff. Like I could make it bigger. It would probably tear. It will probably start tearing because I'd have to improve the speed of the code that drives it.
Were you looking at Decathlon or something like that for the?
Say again.
Were you looking at Decathlon or some other game for the scrolling, or did you just come?
Yeah. No, I mean, I wrote all this myself, but I mean, I actually used one of the Summer Games versions as inspiration for this backdrop.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the track too. Yeah.
Because, like I said, I was just trying to put something together, so I didn't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time, doing graphics, because I wanted something on the screen. So I looked it up on Google Images, and I sort of did a zoom in to see how they were doing it. It's like, okay, and I started putting these random things together, and then put that into a stadium map. And I think the stadium map I use is 1.5 times as wide as the screen. And it sort of just takes sections and rereads them, and the same with this map for the foreground. Like it uses like a piece called road, and it loops that over and over and over until it decides it comes to the ramp. And of course everything's slowing down because I got all this stuff running on my computer and then trying to share it. But
which one of those
program? The actual program runs really smooth.
Yeah, which one of the gray lines is the top part of the parallax?
Right there. It's right in here.
Okay.
You see that glitch when it smacks back? Right where my cursor is. Right there, where I've got those 2 gray lines.
Yep.
It gives a little bit of wiggle room for the raster it creeps in, but I mean I've got these 4 sprites crossing over.
Yeah.
This raster break, and so I had to time that to go back into the borders, and it was a nightmare. But I mean a single chunk will be fine. And to tell you the truth, we got a lot of information on the game we want to do to put down here. I'm thinking we're going to have a bar across here with sectioned off for the items that we can use our joystick to swap between. We're going to have the bar, the energy bar. An energy bar is going to be in there. We're going to have a timer, like how much time has elapsed, probably. How many lives popped in there. So really, it's a lot, and we want to make it look cool. So there's actually, and the size of our character, if it's one sprite, it's going to be about this size, because this is like I said, this is 4 sprites here. There's each of those parts there is a sprite, and this part here is a sprite, because I wanted a big looking bulldozer. I didn't want a dinky little thing.
I'm gonna have to play Bunker again. Yeah. Never know which one of these to get. It's just the music.
So yeah, I'm going to unshare my screen now. Here we go. Yep. So yeah, that's what I found. I found where that was. That loading screen there. Oh, who uses CC64? Who uses that? Is that
you? Yeah.
Use Vice. I mean, I have them both because there's one program that I like that's a ripper that demands that. But I use Vice. I just think it's nicer.
I think I still have Frodo on here somewhere.
Oh lordy, there's a blast from the past. I think I've got Win UAE here. So I mean, I loaded a version of Spelunker that was still had like it had the original drive files still intact, so that I could go through them and go through the loader and all that sort of stuff. Yep, that's the one I got. Actually, I got one that's broken by somebody else, and considering how primitive the game is, I think the game breaks itself all by itself actually. But yeah, that's that first screen, and they've thrown the sprites. Oh, that's what that probably is. I was trying to work out what some code was doing. And this actually has a little intro thingy too, if you leave it sit to its own devices.
Yeah, it kind of shows the elevators and all that.
It's funny. I think the little intro is better than the game. But I mean, yeah, they got all this little cool stuff happening there. But the gameplay is absolutely. I mean, I played it today, and I'm like, this is shocking. It's like one of those things where I had a really cool idea, but every time I move and try and do something, I die. And the intro makes it look so good. Like, look, this is easy. You just do this. And like, no, every time you do anything, it just messes up and you die.
Yeah, like right there. Jumping off a rope. That's what always gets me.
Yeah, moving off a rope. Accidentally missing. I was saying a little earlier, I think I got distracted, but yeah, the way I like to set up my collisions, and I did this on the Amiga, and I did it in my little Android stuff as well, is I'll always try and make the error, like the collision system error, in the benefit of the player. Like I'll make the collision masks for the player a little smaller than the actual character, so they've got that wiggle room to mess up. You know what I mean? And I'll make it for the enemies a little bigger, like, or have them pixel perfect. But I think that pixel perfect collisions, I think that's a vanity of the programmer. I don't think it aids in gameplay at all. I think it's detrimental. Because I mean, if you die because your toe hit something that's, or an erroneous pixel in your hand hits something and causes you to die, I think that's crap. Or like an enemy fires a bullet at you and it whizzes past, and like one pixel of it clips one pixel of the hair they've drawn and you die. I reckon that's bullshit.
How do I kill the ghost? I need the gun, right?
Huh?
How do I kill the ghost?
Ghost. Oh, I think you hit spacebar or something. Or
Yeah, I could never figure that out.
I did it, but to be honest, it looked like he's waving his pecker at the ghost. There it is.
Yeah, spacebar.
What space bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, right? That's what I was saying. Like, and to use the dynamite, you got to hit D, and to use the flare, you got to put F, and there's a pick in there that you can collect, but you can't seem to use it for anything. Or I couldn't select it. I was like, oh god, this would be just so much easier. Like that should not have been a death. He should have caught that rope.
I know. The ropes kill me every time.
And you should only fall off the ropes if you absolutely fall across. And if you don't reach your maximum terminal velocity, you shouldn't die when you hit the ground. That's just like. There's just so much in there that, like, yeah, I mean, I like the idea of this game. I really do. I like the idea. I like the setting. The map, I looked up the map online, and it's huge. Massive.
Have you ever seen the guy that plays the walkthrough on it online?
No, I haven't seen the walkthrough for it.
Yeah, it's a long play. He goes through all of it. He's got a lot of views on his channel. He says C64 long plays.
Yeah. I remember finishing Monty Mole and Trolley Wally.
I finally got it to work, but I found an old version. That scrolling routine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And everything's done.
So how many pixels is it scrolling by per update?
Were you talking to me or?
Yeah.
Oh, it's supposed to be pixel by pixel. I don't know exactly what that means. It's supposed to be 7, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So,
right, yeah.
let me share for a minute and show you. This is supposed to be some of the lower levels.
Yeah.
But the animation, ignore the animation. It looks terrible. I wasn't working on the animation. I was working on the scrolling. So.
Yeah.
But the problem is when I scroll down, sometimes it screws up the map like that. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that.
I think you may be running off map memory, or
is that what that is?
It could be.
Maybe if we move the ROMs or something, that might be a good idea. Look what it did to the sprites. After a while, it just crashes, you know. It's like, but there's a lot of levels down here.
Yeah.
Like there's one right there.
Yeah. Or maybe you're writing your map to somewhere you shouldn't be writing it.
I don't know. It's supposed to go up and down. Up is even worse.
Yeah.
Drive classics.
I said, you know what I would do is to have like a one tile buffer that I can read in, or I can read out to the screen.
Uh-huh.
And, when that buffer needs replacing, we replace it or we rebuild it. Probably double buffer to a different screen to build different sections of it on different frames. Because you've only got to do that chunky scroll once every 7 frames. So it depends on how fast you're scrolling. So if I'm scrolling 1 pixel per frame.
Yeah, that's why it's shaky like that.
Then then I would use, then I only have to do that chunky scroll once every 7 frames. So that gives me all those frames in the background to to rebuild the entire screen as it's going to have to be. Over 7 frames of work, and then when it comes time to scroll, all I need to do then is to swap the frame and transfer the color memory. And when I say all I need to do, that's still a hefty chunk of memory to move, across.
Yeah. Well, let me show you where I
You
did
got
it.
you got to do some raster trickery to get that done nice and smooth, but it's not that bad. You look ahead. Now the thing is that for every pixel of speed you increase, you halve the amount of frames of work you get to do. So when it comes down to, I think in Trump Jump it's up to 4.
Mhm.
I'm literally down now. That's the upper level of that. I have to do all of my work in 2 frames. Yeah, I have to rebuild the entire. So I have to look ahead on the map to where the map is going to be. I have to rebuild the screen to a back buffer. Then I have to pretty much immediately turn around and start copying color memory. You know.
So you're
And there are
saving
guys who
it
go
into another
faster.
area, and you're copying it back later.
For what my
The map.
for the map. For the map, I'm keeping it in a separate memory area. I'm reading it in as needed. So when I reach that, yeah. So what'll happen is just say I'm moving left. Well, in Trump Jump, you only move left, so it's very easy. Sorry, you only move right, so it's very easy. So I know that in X amount of frames, I have to update the entire screen. So at that point, I get what's on the main screen, because screen memory doesn't actually change. It's just where you're viewing it from along those pixel boundaries. So I start copying the screen 1 character across. So a character from the visible screen to the hidden screen, from 1 character across. Then I go to my map and I look along that edge, and I fill in that edge that I've got to do. And then on the frame update, I copy color memory one block across, so that everything matches up, and then I write that 1 line down.
So about that, when you're copying screen memory, are you copying it from the 0 page, or how are you doing that?
I'm copying it from the actual screen RAM.
Oh, okay. I think that's probably where
Yeah.
I failed here. Is I tried to read the screen, and this is a routine I found in the book, and it's obviously slow.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, then that routine has to be fast. I mean, now that's why I said it's why you keep 2 screens going. Now, the tricky part on that is that, like I said, I'm copying it to a different screen that the Vic's looking at, the whole screen setup thing. I'm copying it to another address that's a viable screen. And then at that frame update, what I'm doing is I'm skipping it around. I'm skipping which screen is viewed. But then I have to have provision in. This is what I was saying before. We got to plan it early, because then in every single routine that draws to the screen, I need to have the provision there to tell it automatically which screen we're writing to. I have to keep track of the front screen and the back screen, because they're just the same screens. They're just flipping back and forth, so they're exchanging places. So when one's being displayed, the other one's being written to. So in every single draw routine, has to be able to look up and say, I'm on screen 1, or am I writing to screen 1, or am I writing to screen 2, and keep that entire thing transparent to the programmer.
You know what that reminds me of? I don't know. Did you ever program on the Atari? They had page flipping on the Atari.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Page flipping.
I did it on the Amiga too, where you define 2 screens.
Yeah.
And even then, you got the same.
You can do it in BASIC, and it's so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, Commodore doesn't have that.
Say again?
Commodore doesn't have that. You have to create that.
Yeah. Well, that's what programming is.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's cool about the Atari. They actually had all that built in.
Yeah. They had it in BASIC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, machine language, but you can access it from BASIC. So you can make some really cool machine language games in BASIC. And it became very popular for the Atari. But this is Commodore 64 channel, so I never really showed all my other work. I do have an Atari channel out there, but I don't have time to work on it. I'm doing too much other stuff right now. But that's essentially what I would probably have to do. I mean, the reason why I'm getting behind this is if we decided to go with scrolling, maybe we could work off the same ideal. I mean, we'll obviously have a different map. Yeah, that gets screwed up when I scroll over too. I don't know why it does that. But,
So are you saying that as like a 1-to-1? Like each character on the screen is represented on the map as 1 character?
Yeah, let me show you kind of how the code is. So right here, like for example, we're going to the right. So here's the pixel scroll right routine.
Yep.
Let me take a look at it there for a second. Basically, we're reading in that what do they call that area again for the scan and the screen or whatever.
Which one?
The scan lines, D016.
Yeah.
And then this, you can kind of ignore all this stuff. This is just to tell me when my alien's going to appear, and I made him kind of show up on the screen. But down here is where, and this is just more of the keeping track of which screen you're on. Here's where the scrolling routine happens. We're reading in each byte as we're moving through the screen. Wait until we get to 255. That's because my map is 255 pixels, or whatever you say.
Yeah.
Like the character pad, for example. This is set all the way up to 255, so I had to scroll all the way over until I reached the end of the map. And once you do, I reset it. Yeah, you just reset it. I played with that and got that to work, but I mean, if I had done the scrolling right, it probably would have been nice, but I couldn't get the background collisions to work and all kinds of stuff.
Here's what I did for this one. I mean, this was like just a basic idea of one way I could do it.
Are you going to share your screen, or?
Yep. I mean, look here. I'll pop it on there. Here we go. Yeah, one way.
You're not showing yet. There you go.
Yeah, what I did was, where is it? That's my graphics screen is right here. Now that's graphics. Stadium character set.
That's pretty cool. You did all that in that character set editor.
Yeah. Oh no, this is a bitmap.
Oh, it's a bitmap. Okay, I was wondering how you got it so fine. Okay.
Yeah. Here we go. This is the stadium character screen. Right, made up of the characters. And then I have the.
I see.
I thought I had another character screen. Here, there it is. Now this is what this one is. This is the road thing. But let me look if I can make this bigger. I've got other controls here for this. Yeah. So this one would come along, and I had like a ramp section, and I had my Trumpy section, and then another ramp, and then I had basically some more things there. And like all this is unused. I only used up to here, but it was like this section here is like one screen wide because you need that at the start, but then it immediately goes to the ramp section. Now the reason that there's a nice big break there is because I filled those in with background characters instead.
You see, so C64 Studio allows like map scrolling then. That's kind of cool because we can't do that in CBN though, right?
This is C64 Studio, and like it has its little thingy here where you get your character set and you plug them in, you paint with it. But yeah, you can make this as big as you want, and like scroll around in it. But I mean, what I use that, and I repeat it and repeat it and repeat it till you come to the jump. Then it loads up to that part there, and it runs through that part. And then it has like the one part of it is this, and it'll repeat that for as many trumps as you need to the jump, and then it'll put that part there up as the next map, and sort of like one map section leads to the next as offsets, and so I didn't even use that. I only used actually up to.
Do you make it keep reinserting more and more trumps as it gets bigger and bigger?
I could, but
you haven't got that far yet. I see.
But I wouldn't have to. This is more than enough room to do it on because, like I said, I load this road, and when it gets to the end of the road, as far as scrolling along goes, then there's a pointer basically saying, I'm on this map section, and this map section, I've got this count on it. And when it gets to the end of this road section, I just go and say, I just reset the pointer. So as the screen scrolling, it's like it's drawing in one column at a time. And this is often a different chunk of memory. So it's just reading that, and it's drawing that. It's going, okay, I'm going to increment my counter, and it draws the next one, and the next one. And when it gets to the end, it's say, okay, what's next? And my map says, well, it's another section of road. So it goes, okay, and it jumps back. It just keeps peeling those characters. I can make it as long as I wanted. I only have to add more stuff here. If I wanted to have, I don't know, Donkey Kong at the end, I could draw Donkey Kong in here with the road leading to him, and then I'd have that little section, and I'd say, okay, I'm going along the road, and now there's Donkey Kong. But
that's pretty cool.
It was an interesting way because I did this big sprawling map, and I was like, you know what, I don't feel like drawing all that, and I certainly don't feel like holding it all in memory, and I certainly feel like making another map like that when I want to add something else. So
it's a lot of work.
Sections. Well, the thing is, if I have this as like drawn on there as my start screen, I can use any tileable section for my road. I could use a section this big and just keep resetting it and resetting it.
That's a good point.
But for force, it's not gonna. That system's not gonna work for. That's not going to work for what we need to do. It wouldn't work if I had to scroll in 2 directions either. It only works because I'm scrolling in one direction only. But there are different things we could work out.
So we'll work for our Spelunky clone then, huh?
Huh?
It won't work for our Spelunky clone.
No. But I mean, but we can use those same principles. Like I said, using the character set to make tiles and then saving those tiles as our map enables us to make a lot bigger screens using a lot less memory.
Which is our goal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to work out how to do that. I'll have to work out how to save that, and more importantly, how to read that data back in and make it usable data.
Exactly.
Yeah, but other people are doing it, so we can do it, and the tools are written by people that are doing it. So, yeah, obviously there's a way, and yeah. Actually, I'll start working.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You know what I might do is I might start working on scrolling, and I might do it with just like a mock-up of.
Yeah, just do like a simple scroll. It doesn't have to be like the whole map or anything.
Oh, no. I'm gonna have the scroll, but I'm gonna have to work on how the map data is going to be presented to the screen, like how I'm gonna read that out. So what I'll probably do is I'll just make a bunch of little tiles. Like if I go with a 4x4 character tile idea, then I've just got to have things as A, B, C, and D on them. You know what I mean? Just to show that it works.
So you know how to do the 4x4 tiling?
Nope.
Nope. I would love to learn how to do that.
I will by next Friday, probably.
Because you know how they got it in wait, I got it here.
I mean, I think a 2x2 is a really good.
Let me find it.
Really good.
Where is it?
But I am going to have to go soon because it's getting on very, very early here.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you for all your time. I really appreciate it and everything.
Also, I hope I was able to pass some stuff off to people that's going to be useful, you know, and answer some questions. So.
Yeah. Like, just real quickly, this is a Metal Warrior, and they do the 4x4 scrolling and that, and the 4x4 tiling. If we could figure that out, we could get much finer graphics, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cadaver, I read his article on scrolling, and he was saying that he found that the 4x4 was a really good trade-off between size and speed.
Right.
So.
And plus, if you do that, doesn't it compress more of the character set?
Well, you're going to get more bang out of it, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, you're going to be able to draw bigger areas using less and less actual data. So, I mean, you're still going to have a character set with X amount of characters in it.
Okay.
No matter what, that memory is spent.
Oh.
You know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You need to have a full character set, no matter what you do. So that's, you know, how you use it and how you drive it. You know, it will probably mean you won't have to have 3 of them like Spelunker has.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, he's got some really weird things happening there where like, you know, the actual amount of info he's using would fit in one character set. Like, there's the fact that you can actually draw high-res characters and multicolor characters together on the same screen. Yeah, I'm doing it with Super Trump Jump.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, if I only need to use one color and a background color, I'll use that high-res character. Yeah, or I'll try and make that work. I think it's if you only use the first 8 colors or something like that, there, you know, as your main character color, then it'll draw that character as a high-res character and not as a multicolor.
Things to think about, I guess. But
yeah, well, I mean, what it gives you is that little bit extra resolution, a little bit extra pop, you know, for those particular characters. which
Really like this one.
which would be very cool for background stuff. I mean, if I have a character that's a background character that's that's meant to add a little bit of shading to the far background and nothing more, I can modify those on the fly to make it look like it's parallaxing by modifying that one character.
Which is what Metal Warrior does, right?
Yep, I believe so.
Another cool thing he does is you're moving your sprite over the background, and
Yeah.
he can move it right over background characters, and it doesn't. He can still detect what's on the screen. I have no idea how he does that.
Yeah.
It's pretty smart. Like if he comes to a ladder, I don't know if he set these somewhere in code or how he would have done that.
I would say it's driven by the character number.
Yeah, how else would you do it?
I mean, that's how I would do it. But I mean, why skin a cat? I would say, like I was saying earlier, when you collide with something and you spit back the number, the value of the character. All of his ladders, they look like they're tiled. He's probably spitting back and saying, I'm on a tile, and then adjusting his logic accordingly. Same with the stairs there.
Well, have you ever seen like the play on YouTube? Like sometimes when people jump on the stairs, they can't jump on them right away. So.
Well, in Trump Jump, how it goes up the ramp, and I cheated on this because I wanted to see if it would work. Each section of that ramp is 1 pixel higher than the one before, so I've got that little row of characters in my character set. And what it's doing is the bulldozer in the center of the bulldozer hits that. It reads the character underneath, and then it's like I've just got them set up from like an easy calculated 0 value. So it's like as you're going along, it takes the actual number of the character, and that actually tells it how many pixels it has to be up off the bottom of the character of the character square. It recalculates the delta, the Y delta, based on the value of the character underneath it. It's like, okay, if I'm within this range of characters, I'm in a ramp, and if the thing is like 86, then that means that my delta is 1. It's actually very cheaty. I can show
That works.
you
I mean, isn't that what matters?
I'm going to show you this thing. I can pull it up very, very quickly. But if I pull up.
Well, that kind of looked like what Spelunker was doing too, with the way they had their characters set arranged.
Yeah.
Everything.
My character set. Where is it?
This is really detailed. Don't you think this mountain is really detailed?
Yeah. If you look on this thing here.
Let me get your screen back up. Okay, I got your screen back up.
Yeah. These are the characters here that do the ramp. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, because I have to draw the road behind it as well. So it's like literally these whole things are like 1 step up the whole way.
Oh, I see.
And I've got another set here for the ones that have grass behind them. So yeah, and there's a top one.
That's how you got it to move. Okay.
So it's literally if I come here and says, "Okie doke, I'm over this character 134." That means that I have to move 1 pixel up. And if I'm here, I've got to move.
Start decrementing.
Yeah, so it's basically it checks around that range, and it just masks out literally 8. It only takes like the last.
Whatever works.
Yeah, it's basically from 0 to 7.
It's not like somebody's going to evaluate your code and say, "Oh, that's stupid." I mean, once you get a game running, nobody's going to care what the code looks like.
Well, I've always found, and I'm guilty of it myself because I'm doing it right now, saying how I would solve problems. Everybody. I mean, it's good to think ahead and be able to think about how to solve them. But everybody's got their own idea on how to solve them until they actually have to solve them.
That's true.
And it's like, and that's when they realize that like the little house of cards in their idea is going to fall down. Because I mean, like I said, these guys they know what they're doing. So if you look at something and you think that it's probably a case of you just don't understand what they're doing.
So let's get on another subject here. I know this is kind of moving in a different direction, but like to get and I talked to you about this on Facebook, get into graphics out of Spelunky so we can start creating our own. I want to try to like get an overlay or something so we can kind of plop that on, and then we can kind of just start modifying it.
You know what? I ripped them with a view to put them out there and include them, and I'll put them out there on my Google Drive. The thing is,
okay.
Cool. I will. I mean, I'm going to include them probably in this update, in this live stream.
Then I could just start editing them and
Yeah.
just try to
But
turn
here's
them
the
into
thing.
something.
I looked at them,
Uh-huh.
and they're not worth modifying.
Really? Well,
I
what I
think-
mean is, like, if we have like a ugly looking wall, we could just, add some more multicolor to it or whatever, add some more character shapes around it, because we can just draw all those in the character editor.
Yeah, but I mean, I said the problem is then you're going to end up slaving yourself to how they did things, and how they did things. I don't think it's the best way. But I mean,
Do you think we should
if you
go
want to
on
look,
medical?
if you want to look at them for inspiration on how to go ahead,
Yeah,
like on how to,
because I'm stuck on. I guess my only problem is, like, how do I do that in character? Let me just pull the other one back up here. How do I do that in here? How do I create more than one screen? Do I have to keep reloading it all the time?
and,
Like, this is screen one. If this were screen one, what if I wanted screen two? How do I?
I have not even looked at as the way this thing does its screen handling, like it's screen.
Which is why character pad is so much better, but it's just a little bit more difficult to use. I mean, when I built that map, you saw that thing was like a month to build, and I don't want to sit there and build a map for a month.
Yeah. Well, I said it looks like they've got these tile sets that they've got multiple characters put together as tiles. They're painting with those.
In which one you're talking about?
And Charpad.
In Charbide, yeah. And these are a little bit different. If you work, I don't know if you ever seen these in 1x1. Here, let me just pull mine back up and show you what they look like 1x1. They're totally harder to work with.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can find mine. Actually, I think it was in the same spot. I should just went back there. I think I stuck it right in here. Oh, great. I didn't. I've got this copied on 2 different drives, so this is my backup drive right here. In case my, and it's funny, even though it's my backup drive, one time it almost totally went down on me. I was like, what's the purpose of having it as a backup drive? It's going to die on me anyway. It's one of those external drives. Let me see, I think I saved it here. This was the most recent one I saved.
Hey, I'm gonna have to take off here. Are we gonna meet next week?
Yeah, we'll be here. I mean, everything's good. We made it this week.
For Friday?
Or are we?
Yeah.
Friday, good.
Anything you're going to work on for next week, Darren?
It is close to Christmas.
Yeah, it is. I got some time
I'll
off next week.
probably be looking at what you did there.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
That's all good.
Taking me a while to absorb it. I'm going to be reading that machine language Jim Butterfield book too.
Yeah.
There's really good stuff in it.
I'll see if I can figure out something with the Trump game there.
I'd like to see that game get built, man. I really would. And
Yeah,
if you
no,
need-
it's awesome.
And if you need any help or anything like questions, yeah, just shoot me a message.
Yeah, I got you on Facebook now.
Yeah, and if I can answer it, I'll answer it.
Stefan, are you on Facebook? Because I got Steve on Facebook too.
Yes, I am on Facebook.
Are you one of Steve's friends? Can I find you?
Did you add on mine? Because I've got the Machine Language project there. Let me pull it back up. I just had one of my friends, she wanted to get added to it, and I was like, if you want to watch games, I can add you. Let's pull it back up here. I'll just drop it in the chat there.
Yeah, my Facebook is full of my Australian friends and my sword fighting friends and that sort of thing. So yeah, we just go back and forth and say a bunch of crass rubbish. If you want a good laugh, it's a place to look up. And not so much about my coding unless I put something up there,
Yeah, I got Facebook to when I was in a gaming guild. There was a bunch of people on Facebook, and then people from high school and stuff saw me, so they added me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm Australian and I live in the US, so for me, it's a good way to keep in contact with all my good, all my old friends.
Yeah, I bet. All right, guys.
Yeah,
Good
this has
stuff.
been fun. I know you guys are probably like 6 o'clock in the morning where you're at.
It is for me,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
All
got to the bed here in a couple hours. So I'm going to
Yeah,
take a
my
nap.
kids are going to start wake up in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Time for
Man, you don't sleep much, do you?
No, I don't. then again, you know, I'm an ex-soldier and we don't sleep too much anyway.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we should definitely resume next week, and I guess we kind of just go in the same roles, and hopefully we'll catch up to Bo and see what he's been doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you have anything you want to do, Stefan? Like, even from your perspective?
Now I will start designing some sounds for the music.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we'll all meet back. I'm going to work on scrolling. How close is it to Christmas, by the way?
Well, it's the 17th. So.
Yeah, I was looking up. So it's going to be 24? Is that that's going to be Christmas Eve.
25. So a little bit over a week.
23rd. Okay, I'll
Actually, wait. What is next Friday?
Next Friday is the 23rd.
Oh my gosh, we're pushing it close.
23rd to 24th.
Yeah.
23rd, 24th.
And if you want to resume the week after, let me know. I mean, if
You know
you've
what?
got holiday plans.
I don't know exactly what our Christmas plan, because we got the father-in-law's farm, like about 30 miles from here, and we usually do like a family Christmas. But I don't know if sometimes we go out there and do that. Sometimes we go out and stay there for a few days. I'm not sure exactly what we're doing.
Okay,
but
we can just take a week off.
Posted. But it may be good to resume after.
Yeah.
Although,
plus, I need more time to absorb your code. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do it around about the 30th.
Yeah. Is that a Friday too?
Yeah, that's going to be pushing it close to New Year's Eve.
Yeah, really close.
This is a horrible time of year to be doing this stuff.
But
well, that's good because it gives me 2 weeks to work on scrolling, and to be honest, probably going to need it.
Yeah.
You know, but by the time I come back, like I said, you know, hopefully I'll have more information on how the different programs handle their mapping. So if we can get away with using an already existing program to handle all the mapping, that would make me very, very, very happy. Because you may come down to knocking bits together, you know. might be text filing it, and that's always tedious.
Exactly. We'll just kind of take it day by day, and
we'll see how it goes. First thing I've got to do is move the screen around, so that's going to be interesting.
Yep, sounds good. So I'll let you guys go then. And if you want to join us too on the 30th or 20th, whatever that day is, on Friday, Stefan, if you can get some music together or whatever, we can, when we come to that, we'll add it in, or sounds or anything, if you can work on that too.
Or like, you know, just tell us what progress you made or what you worked on. It doesn't really matter that much about, like, you know, because everybody's learning. So
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hey, cheers, mate. It was good to hear from you.
Yeah, great to hear from everybody. Thanks for all the hard work.
Hey, anytime, mate. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bust out.
Yep.
I'll catch you guys later.
See ya. And thanks for your hard work too, Darren.
Oh, Darren left you.
Left. Also, said you're gonna throw that on Google Drive. Are you gonna?
I'm going to do it tomorrow.
When you get time, just throw it on the YouTube, whatever, so I can have a look at the latest code, because I only have the last one still.
Yeah, I've got the latest code is the 1.3, and we really didn't do anything tonight to it. So I'll zip together the Spelunky stuff that I put together, and
okay. But this is the same one you already uploaded, what we went over tonight, right?
Yeah, that's my not ready for prime time version.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just some character set projects.
Okay.
I can just
and maybe we could throw Darren's sprites in there and get that moving too. So.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to help out with Darren's project too. Whatever he needs done.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, fellas. I'll catch you guys later.
Yep. Catch you later. Thanks for helping out.
Bye.
And I'm gonna be heading out here too, Stefan. But thanks for dropping in, and everybody else who's watching. So did you enjoy it?
Yeah, but all this scrolling stuff seems harder than I thought at first.
Is it making more sense now, or?
Yeah, I think I read a little bit more through the source code.
Okay. I mean, we're not there yet, but I don't know if you've seen my website. I'll try to get that updated. I've been working on so many other things, but if I can get that added in there and start to understand what he went over tonight, because he went over a lot of stuff tonight. So me and Darren's head were just kind of opening up, let's put it that way. But yeah, I'm going to be heading out too then.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you wanted to say?
No, it's
Okay. I mean, you don't have to say anything. Okay, then I guess we'll just call this a night and another 4-hour video. So, but yeah, we started a little bit later tonight. I figured it was probably better to start later than to start early. Otherwise, we'd have like a 6-hour video, and we want to watch a 6-hour video, not me. But yep. So join us in 2 weeks, everybody, and have a Merry Christmas until then.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas.
Yep. Have a good night, or have a good day.
Yeah. Good night.
Thanks.